welcome back to the What's Next podcast. Coming to you from the Live Well Studios right here in Monterey, California. Today we've got a special guest today. You're going to have to help me out with your name a little bit. Menaka?
Yep.
Menaka.
You
kind of like Monica, but with an E in there.
It's sort of, yeah. I tell people it's like Monica, and then people can put it in their brains.
Right. Perfect. So where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Montreal, Canada.
Oh, no kidding.
So land of the snow.
Canadian.
I am Canadian, eh?
Hey.
But now I'm dual citizen because I've been in the U.S. for 30 years now.
Have you?
Almost 30 years, yeah. September, it'll be 30 years. And where does the time go?
Crazy. So you just got out of high school and you took off and went off to college? Or
No, it was never a direct route.
No, never a direct.
No. So we do this, the education of the province of Quebec is different. So I did kind of an education between high school and university.
I see.
Called CEGEP in Montreal. And then I did my undergrad in physiology, and then I was ready to work. So I decided, okay, I want to become an accountant, become a CPA. And then I started going down that path, started to work for Ernst & Young, realized, oh my God, I hate this. Had a younger sister doing physical therapy, studying, and a good friend from undergrad also doing physical therapy. So I moved to the U.S.
Oh, okay, I see.
And because you could get a more elevated degree at the time.
I see. Yeah.
And that's what brought me to the U.S.
So the CPA and all that schooling, that was all up in Canada.
Yeah.
So where was your sister, you said? Where was she?
She was, we went to the same university. She's was a grade below me. And then she switched to physiotherapy, as it's called, and everywhere else outside the U.S. And but she moved to the U.S. after she graduated.
Oh, okay.
So just physiotherapy, yes. So if you hear it in other countries, it means physical therapy here.
Okay, sure. Right.
Yeah, so I did a 3-year degree in Rhode Island, and then I did a bunch of contracts all over the place for 2 years, and ended up in the West.
Yeah. Between
a couple where my sister lived, and then I ended up living in the West near Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got your physio degree
and license in the U.S.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing that now? It's very close to massage.
Yeah. At least in the healthcare field and taking care of patients. Yeah, I graduated in 95, so it's 27 years now.
Okay.
Which is also it feels like yesterday when I was in grad school.
Right. Is there letters I'm a CMT?
I'm an MSPT.
Oh, I see. Okay, right.
But now,
a bunch of letters in there somewhere.
Yeah, now they do doctorates. So,
do they?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They'll take you as far as you want.
Yep. So I'm not Dr. Menaka. I'm just Menaka.
Right. Sure. Not yet. We're working on it.
That's right.
So tell me a little bit. I don't know a whole lot about physical therapy. I came into the game I went from owning small businesses, construction. I was looking for something that I could, help people, and I kind of fell into massage, but I haven't been injured enough in my life to have needed any physical therapy, or I did, and I just didn't do it.
Right.
So
the best patient.
Right. Exactly. Right.
So yeah, I kind of took more the inpatient route, which is less known by just the average person, unless they've been in the hospital and they needed rehab. So most people know physical therapy is an outpatient clinic. So, you go, you fix your shoulder, your back. But I kind of stuck into inpatient rehab. So, and also working in hospitals primarily. So people in the hospital that are just needing to get moving, and then rehab. I've worked in hospitals and nursing homes, and where people are just not ready to go home yet. They're medically cleared from the hospital. So the hospital's you got to leave, but they're not ready to get home safely. So we do more rehab, and that'll be, usually a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, and sometimes a speech therapist.
Oh, wow.
So they'll get at least, depending on the setting, 2 to 3 hours a day of therapy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're right. I do think about physical therapy as an outpatient type thing. And you have to go to my PT 2-3 times a week or whatever it is. And they assign you different exercises or stretches or that type of thing for you to take home and work on your own.
Right.
But if you're dealing with people right in the hospital, you're probably dealing with a little bit harder cases.
Right. And it's, yeah. And so typically it's not one joint. Like it's like them being able to get in and out of bed safely.
I see.
Sometimes they have certain surgeries that requires them, like if they had a back surgery or a heart surgery, and they have to come in and out of bed or stand up a certain way not to break, the surgery points. And people are dealing, if you had a total knee replacement and it's super painful and you couldn't go home right away, then you might need some rehab so that you can get out of bed and you can walk and you get to the bathroom and things like that. Some of the basic things. So then,
kind of like rehab therapy.
It is.
Almost.
It is. Yeah, it is
getting
rehab
them out
therapy.
of the bed, getting them out of their chair, and getting them actually moving again.
Totally.
Oof,
Yeah.
that's all the joints, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It's the whole body.
Yeah.
And, they may have specific things like a back surgery or knee surgery or a hip surgery. And then sometimes, a hip, like they might have fallen, broken a hip or broken a foot, and they're not allowed to use their foot. And they have to learn to hop. And if some of them, if they're 80, 90 years old, that's not going to be easy or possible.
Right.
So you have to really work with them. And sometimes there's elements of dementia. And if people have had major strokes, there could be cognitive changes. So you're working with a lot of different things.
I see. Wow.
But it's always like the rehab's always been really great because it's such a team approach. And I love that part of it. Yeah.
Really. The one thing that I like about the medical massage that I do is I see people long term and I see them come out of a funk. If you know what I mean. I know you know what I mean because you see
Totally.
it too. You get somebody that's down and wearing dark clothes, and 2 months later they're moving, they got their makeup back on again. They're and it's like, oh, I feel great. And you had a little bit of a piece to do with that.
Yeah, and that's the part that's really gratifying.
Right.
When you see the improvements. And then sometimes you have to be their cheerleader because they're like, oh, that's not walking. And I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, I count that. Yesterday, you couldn't take any steps. Today, you walked 10 feet, and that matters. You're moving in the right direction.
Yeah. You're giving those attaboys.
Yeah, basically.
People need that. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they are depressed. Like,
sure.
They are and sometimes, they feel this is, some people have had really, really traumatic, strokes or traumatic accidents, head injuries, things like that can often change their lives. So there's a lot that they're having to go through, including pain, a lot of the time. So it's, you're treating the whole person, the whole body, the mental, the emotional. It's pretty comprehensive.
Pain really changes somebody.
Oh, totally.
It just changes their whole person.
Right. Exactly.
When I see somebody that's come out and they're feeling so much better, it's like, oh, he fixed my back. They're walking straight again. I wasn't able to go to the ball games that I love to go to. I wasn't able to do this, and you got me back on my feet. It's just the best thing ever, isn't it?
It is. But because I'm mostly in the inpatient, usually what we try to do is get them to the next phase and get them home, whether somebody's going to take care of them. Sometimes they do have to go to long-term care once in a while, depending on what's, the age and the situation and the family support and how much help they're going to need. So often, you don't see the fine-tuning of it, which will happen in outpatient or home care, where they get to maybe come off the walker and start to walk with a cane and then eventually not a cane, depending on the person. So
right. I know hospitals have that part where after surgery you go to the rehab before you go home, where they're trying to teach you a little bit of how to be now that you're missing a leg or whatever,
Right.
And so I know that, but still they get sent out a little too quick.
They are, because having been in it for 27 years, this part is like knee surgeries, total hips and total knees have become like day surgeries. And when I started out, you stay in the hospital for 3 days, and probably most people went home, but a lot of people went to rehab.
Sure.
Now it's when my friend's husband went for a day surgery and went home, I'm like, what? That was the first time I heard it, a few years ago. I'm like,
Where they went in with scopes and didn't have to cut them open?
No,
and just,
the replacement. So they had to cut in and put a replacement, and it's like...
And even then they sent them right home.
Day surgery. What the heck?
Wow.
I hope the techniques are better. But, I'm just thinking, it's all about... a lot of the ortho surgeries are what run the hospitals, like financially.
Right.
And it's just like, it's all about like speed and, getting people out. And it's a little bit horrifying to me.
It is. That's quite a trauma to that joint.
Exactly.
All right, send you home.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Exactly.
It's mostly an insurance thing, probably.
Yeah, but I guess they have to also be careful. The techniques must be better too, and maybe the, the surgical techniques, maybe they've improved, and probably, hopefully, the actual prosthesis that they put inside has improved in, 2.5 decades. I would hope, Oh,
I'm sure.
Yeah, so hopefully some of that is helping accelerate the healing, accelerate, the whole process.
Yeah.
But it's still horrifying.
Crazy.
Because they're put under, and it's like, what? You're going to send them home?
They're still a little wobbly when they're walking out from the anesthetic.
Exactly.
Well, some people don't have people at home to take care of them. That's the scary part, right? Right.
So in that case, like the therapists are often involved. We're involved, like even at the hospital level, like, if they day of surgery, we have to go see them. And if in our opinion, we see how they're moving, we really think, they don't have the family support, or maybe medically or pain-wise, they're just not moving the way they need to get home safely. Mm-hmm. Then we will recommend, maybe they'll be able to stay another couple of days in the hospital. And if that's still not working out, then they'll have to go to a rehab
facility.
Yeah. So whether that's in-house, and in-house can be, inpatient rehab, usually all major, not all major hospitals. There's not in every single hospital a rehab center. And sometimes they're physically in the hospital. Sometimes they're in a different building or a different even street. I've worked in rehabs that were in a different place, but related to that particular hospital. And then sometimes they'll go to a nursing home and get rehab there. Oh, sure. Yeah. Right.
And they have people right on staff there.
Correct. Sure. Yeah, it's just can be a little rough going in the nursing homes because the ratios aren't. They kept pulling, like during my career, like Medicare kept pulling out money, so it became a very, very fast-paced environment where they expect you to see a gazillion patients, bill for a ton, and it's like almost impossible. But it's not the same environment. I try not to work there because I don't have that pace in me anymore, really. So. Right. It can be really tough.
I think from a massage therapist point of view, what I see mostly from people that are seeing a therapist is they get a bunch of these difficult stretches and workouts, and it hurts so bad they don't end up doing them.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just, they're hurting me, or I don't know if they know what they're doing. It's like, you kind of have to muscle through it. But again, pain. Nobody wants to go, in pain.
Yeah,
how big of a problem is that for you?
Well, in inpatient, you're right there with them. They don't often. Sometimes, the more motivated ones, we say, oh, you can do these on your own, right? And they'll do that, right?
Of course. Sure.
But most of the time, you're one-on-one with them.
Okay.
And or sometimes there's some groups. So you're right there. You're their coach. You're their lead, and sometimes they're trying not to do it. So then that becomes, well, no, this is why you're here. We really have to work with you. And sometimes, but they also have the right to say no.
Sure.
But sometimes it is hard, and you have a set schedule. And then if somebody adamantly refuses, you really can't force them.
Yeah.
They have rights. And I respect that. And then, your whole schedule is all kind of crazy, but they have rights. And I'm very much a proponent that patients have rights.
Yeah.
So, but you'll run into that sometimes, and there's just some people that can just work through the pain, and some people that can't, and some people that are just so, oh, hey, I want to get out of here. I will do anything you say, and I usually have to say, I want you, like I always want people empowered, and I want them to say, hey, if something's not working for you, you've got to tell me. Because I want them to also have a sense of control, not give away everything to just because medical professionals are an authority and they should do that, because that was always been a really important thing for me. And sometimes the older patients, like especially women, even as a new therapist, I would say, hey, if there's something that's not working for you, this is your life and you have to live by the consequences. So you've got to speak up, because sometimes people get into automatic,
Sure.
I try not to be that way. And so, you've got to really just tune in to the patient. And I've always just, tell patients, hey, we're going to work in the moment. Some days are going to be better than others. We're going to take it step by step. And, this is what I'd like to do, but if it's not going to work out today, that's fine.
So, not put any pressure on them or anything like that.
Exactly. And that usually, for the most part, it'll get people going, because sometimes they're really terrified. And it's like, we'll just work in the moment. You have a headache today, or your pain's is worse, or you're not eligible for a pain pill for an hour. We're just going to work at where you are, and we'll just do the best you can. Mm-hmm. And that usually will, help.
Yeah. There's, I do a lot of trigger point therapy, and it causes a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. And I know some people don't come back, but other people, it might take 2 or 3 days to get those shoulders or whatever so locked up to let go. Mm-hmm. And really have to get in there inside of that joint and really find where everything's bound up. And, I can see them just, but we got to get to it.
Right. I was one of those people.
Some people understand and some people don't.
I get it, but I was jumping off the table.
Sure, yeah. What'd you came in for? I think you had some bad feet, didn't you?
But I came in for an overall complete thing. It's been a while, and I'm doing a contract out here, so it actually ends in a week and a half.
Okay.
But I like to just get like massages once in a while, and it had been a while.
Yeah.
So
really had to drill into some spots, didn't we?
There was a lot of them. You probably could have gone way more, but I couldn't do it.
It's that first time in. We just got to be I'm sure that's exactly what you do. Take it to where some people can take it.
Right.
Some people go harder. Mm-hmm. Some people are tapping out.
Right.
So you kind of have to gauge that a little bit too.
Exactly.
But, I have to get in there and cause pain.
Right.
We have to understand that. Mm-hmm. This isn't a spa massage.
Right. So exactly. I want results.
Right.
Within my
tolerance.
Not a masochist.
Right. Tell me again.
I said within my tolerance.
Right.
So,
you got to keep it within that. But I can actually feel them letting go. I'm sure you do that too. You're stretching and getting things moving around. And I absolutely love it. Just to help people have been locked up for years. I've been able to turn their neck and get them moving again. And they're just so happy.
Yeah.
It's a great thing, isn't it? Yeah.
If I were super wealthy, I'd get a massage once a week.
Yeah. Right.
Seriously. Like everybody needs that.
Sure. Right. It's nice to go out and get a medical massage once in a while.
Right.
It's not as foo-foo as, the spa massage, but you really kind of need to do that every once in a while.
Oh, yeah. I want to be looser.
Therapy, right.
Yeah, because I do a lot of sports and things. So,
do you?
Yeah, well, I run and I do strengthening, and then I hike when I can. And
I see.
I'll probably bike when I head back up north, because I don't have my bike down here.
So tell me, you're on a contract.
Correct.
Where do you call home?
A little north of Seattle, Bothell, Washington.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I haven't been up that far. It sounds absolutely beautiful.
It is. Yeah. They've had an exceptionally rainy season, more than normal. So I missed half the ski season because a whole bunch happened in April of all months. Right. But then I so needed the sun. That's when I got here, like April 2nd.
Yeah.
And it was so sunny. It was like, oh.
Not a lot of sun up there, huh?
Not this year, especially.
No.
Yeah. So they're still like having rain. Like it's July.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you missed your ski season, huh?
Well, my sister did. Yeah. She did as much skiing in April as I did in the entire season, because a whole bunch of weird things happened, like closing down. Like it snowed so many feet, and then there was so much snow that they had to close the pass, and because there were little avalanches all around the major pass, and then by the time they got it open a few days later, a heat wave came in. and it rained, and it was such a waste of good snow.
Just turn it all into a sheet of ice.
Slush, I think.
Slush,
so
right,
I was like, God, it's like, we didn't go.
Right, sure.
So, but it is really beautiful, and the summers are really beautiful.
Right, sure.
So I'm looking forward to that, and then going and kind of mentioned I also have a business on the side where I'm an intuitive life coach.
Okay.
So I've always been interested in energy healing.
Sure. And
just taking courses one after another since 1999.
That's interesting stuff, huh?
Yeah. So
you just study and study. It just goes on forever.
Yeah, I just believe the body can heal itself.
Sure.
But you sometimes do need that extra, like the massage or the therapy or, medication sometimes. But, just the body has the ability to heal itself if you believe it. And and what I do now, like with I have a handful of clients is, looking into people's energy fields kind of with intuition. I did a lot of intuition healing training for 3 years, and being able to see people's belief systems that are held energetically, and they hold people back, and they often they get downloaded into you as you're growing up, and you don't even know. You just take it in. Just like when you learn a language, you just take it in. You don't say, oh, well, I think I will not learn the word ball. Like you don't, you just take it in. Mm-hmm. And then they run you. And then the planet has its own matrix kind of beliefs and all kinds of things, like you're not worthy unless this and this and this and this, and you take that in. And, when you're trying to manifest things, but you have these contrary beliefs, like let's say you wanted to be super wealthy, but you believe wealthy people are really arrogant, that's going to work against sort of an opposite, because you don't want to be arrogant. So you're fighting, bringing in stuff. So I can go in, kind of see where the beliefs are when you downloaded them, like, a parent, whoever raised you typically. And sometimes you just arrived on the planet. If you believe in past lives, you got that. But if you don't believe in past lives, I just say you arrive on the planet with your own energies and belief systems already. And then, helping you clear them and stuff. And this year is the first year because I've done so many exchanges with people and do a lot of work on my own. This is the first year since 1991 that I have not had my seasonal allergies for the first time. Yeah.
Wow.
And the worst one was when I did a contract in Sacramento in 2018. And I got a couple of, I would always say mine are not terrible, like mild to medium, but something with Sacramento, they do experiments, I think. And then I wasn't from there. And somebody said it was a bad season. So it was like a triple whammy.
Sure.
I ended up in ambulatory services to get shots and breathing treatments twice.
Wow.
And so when I came down here and anytime I would sneeze or I could feel it was coming in, I would just talk to my body and get rid of it. But then I did go visit some people in Sacramento. And I said, oh, we'll find out. It's just Monterey's really protected. And I work in Salinas. And sure enough, I was fine. We had lunch outside with 2 people with flowers and vegetation. And then I had dinner at their home later outside, and nothing.
Yeah, Salinas is a very dusty place too.
Right, but this was Sacramento. Sorry,
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I went up. Sorry, I might have not said that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I went up to Sacramento, so that was going to be the test.
Okay.
Am I protected because something about this region kept me not having allergies? But then when I went during the season up to Sacramento and I had nothing, it was like I didn't have allergies this year. Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Huh.
So like my body's gotten super light and things like that. So it's really fun. It's just like, I'm always wanting to help and heal. And I had the opportunity, to kind of work some of the concepts with a couple of people during my rehab stint here. Mm-hmm. As a therapist, and, just a couple of times. And because, mostly you just kind of have to do the stereotype thing. But somebody was having problems with pain. And I said, let's do the meditation that I do before I clear. And you teach people how to do that.
Sure. And
she was like, it took 5 minutes, maybe 10. And she's like, oh my God, I'm so much better. So really? I said, you can do this anytime you want. You can just, it's just connecting, pulling energy down. I just talk them through and
Sure.
the earth energy up, and then I kind of help them do it and then expand out. And when you do that and you get practice at it, you just feel safer in the world. Like people tend to shrink their, you've heard of your personal energy space, like auras and things like that.
I don't know a whole lot about them.
Okay. But we all have like an energy field around us. And when we're fearful or angry or these sort of lower energies, we shrink our energies, which actually make us feel less safe. But when you learn to expand it and keep it out, people can also sense you, kind of your power, an authentic power, not like the abusive type that some people use, right?
Yeah.
Like certain leaders of certain countries.
Right.
And then you just feel safer, and the ability, you just be able to like create and manifest things a lot more easily, and just feels calmer about it. Yeah,
it's very interesting.
Yeah. So
I do a lot of myofascial release when I'm doing that, and it seems that a lot of people carry a lot of energy or negative energy through the shoulders, neck area. People say, oh, that's where I carry my stress. I think it's a little more than that. I think it's deeper than maybe the stress makes them hold their shoulders up until it locks. So when I go to release that and I just feel and I see the shoulders drop, maybe an inch or more sometimes, and they'll just start crying. Because it just all comes pouring out. And I have to wonder to myself, is that since I've released the shoulders, am I also releasing what's holding those shoulders up? To have them break into a crying fit like that, What do you think about that?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And we hold our emotions, like we're taught to hold our emotions.
Sure. And
we hold on to them. And sometimes even our emotions, people will enjoy being angry, or they enjoy being a victim, and they had, things happen in their lives.
Interesting point.
And they've also had a lot of maybe trauma and emotions, betrayal, and they hold on to these emotions and they relive them and they relive them and they relive them. And the body is also there to communicate with us, to tell us, hey, you got to release this. So when they're in, they start to create problems in the body. They create allergies. They create tightness, muscles. You hope they just go to the muscles in a way, but then sometimes they go deeper to organs and things like that. So yeah, a lot of emotions get trapped in there, and you can do sometimes what I do works really well with a massage therapist, or because sometimes you just need that extra piece. And if you're ready to release it, sometimes you just need that massage to help physically remove it.
Exactly.
But when it becomes chronic, like you release it, but if you don't actually release the emotion, really let it go, they'll probably come back and they're tight again. So yeah, definitely, I know there's a lot of energy courses like training sacral energy healing, and I've done a couple of courses, and there's some that are just emotional release kind of courses and different kinds of realms of healing, and working exactly with the fascia and the muscles, because things get trapped, and then when you release them, the emotions just come out.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, cathartic. I mean, that's what people need.
Right. PTSD. We have a lot of military right here in Monterey, whether it be Army, Navy, everybody's here. Post-college training and language skills and all kinds of stuff here. I see so much military, and I know they've seen a lot.
Oh yeah.
And I wish I could do more. I wish I had more to offer them, but like you say, if I can just release those shoulders, release that myofascial tension, I can get them on the pathway to start relaxing.
Right.
Maybe if I could get with somebody that works more with the energy like you, and I could pass them on, get so far, and then, right.
But you can also combine that, because I have a couple of therapists, massage therapists I've worked with, one up in Seattle, and she does some energy healing also. Yeah, and I'll usually want mostly the massage. So you can learn Reiki and things like that, and you can combine it with your with it, and that way, you can start a little bit and then just say, okay, I'm going to just do a little Reiki on you or craniosacral for a couple of minutes, and these energy things get people to really relax. And a lot of massage therapists, choose to do that. But then some of them, like these two people I know, a lot of people are not into it. So they love me when I come because I'm like, yeah, can you add like 5 minutes, a couple times? Yeah. I like to do 90-minute massages because I'm never satisfied after 60.
Right.
And, get a little bit of that energy. But, you can combine some things. It doesn't have to be like the work I do is more like talking to people and looking into their energy and helping them release it.
Sure.
But, somebody like you that's sort of a hands-on person, you can learn energy stuff and people, and it, like Reiki, it has to run through you before and come out your hands, and it doesn't get polluted. It's just pure. It just comes out.
Sure.
So you're healing yourself as you heal people.
Right.
So it's really kind of cool if you ever have an interest to combine it.
Yeah.
And but you can kind of do that aspect, combine it.
I do take on energy. Do you ever do that?
Take on energy meaning?
Sometimes I'll be working on somebody that's got so much going on that I sometimes have to release. My heart will get going so fast, I have to let go of them. And I thought, hey, what in the heck is this? The first couple of times that happened, is like, am I having, is it me? Or
you're probably
but then
taking...
after a few more times, it was like, you know what? As soon as I put my hand on this certain area, my heart increases. And I know that's an energy. It's not me. I'm not having a panic attack or anything. I'm doing anything else that I've ever done.
You might be, so you have to be careful that you're not healing people with your energy. Right. So if you're like having, compassion and empathy, or the energy's there and you're just like this healer person, because anybody that's typically in healthcare and is, including massage therapists, we care about people and we want them to feel better.
Sure.
We'll use ourselves and our body, but you have to be really careful with that. You have to learn how to center and keep your energy. That's something I teach, separate. And, sometimes I'll know, like when I'm reading, I'll kind of know, okay, I'll feel a little buzz in my shoulder, let's say, and say, okay, add light to your shoulder, because I can tell the belief or energy is hanging out in their shoulder.
I see.
And some people also, can really feel it. They will feel pain and things like that, but you have to be very careful. So if you're a super healer and you're always taking in your patients and your clients' energies, whether you're a psychotherapist, a doctor, a nurse, a parent, with a partner that has, energies that you keep pulling into yourself, you can make yourself sick. So, I think it's very real. So either you felt it and didn't, really cause any harm to yourself, but if you don't know how not to do that, you likely pulled it into yourself and started using your life force for somebody. Mm-hmm. So, and they're just ways to learn how to connect and then just keep yourself centered. And
that's interesting.
Yeah. So it's totally real.
Right.
In my opinion.
Sure it is. Yeah.
I mean, if it felt.
Go off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember one guy on the podcast was saying, it's so nice. You must love this job. You can finish up at the end of the day and go home. And it's like, man, I carry so much stuff. Mm-hmm. It would be nice to be able to just walk away at the end of the day, but you have to really decompress. And maybe I just don't know how to do that.
Right.
I do take on people's energies, and it's my mindset to fix this person's physical problem.
Right.
Right. So in turn, sometimes I end up taking their energies. I never believed in any of that when I went to school for massage. I just want to fix people's muscles.
Right.
Because I've fallen off so many buildings and I have so many broken parts. It's like I know where everybody hurts. I know how to fix some things.
Right.
So I went to a really good school. Never even thought about the energy side of this until it got, smacked me in the face.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and it's totally real. I mean,
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and people that have a lot of compassion or, empathy,
Sure.
And that can even happen. You're watching the news and things like that, and like all these crazy, horrible things happen on the world, and you start to just give your own energy to it. Like let's say you're going through cancer, and often they'll tell you, don't watch the news, don't do this, don't do that, watch things that make you laugh, because those energies will make you sad. So that brings down your overall healing, like it just brings your overall energy level down to a lower level, a less healing level. And also if you start just sending it out to people, like when you're sick, you need to hold on to it yourself. But you can learn to do both. You can learn to hold on to your energy and keep people separate and like set up their energy, and learning how to keep it separate, and then like also learning how to cleanse yourself. Like I'm not as good because my job is so fast paced too. Sure. Like to really decompress and do a quick retuning, clear all the energies around me, and then go to the next. And but yeah, if you get really good at that, then you can put energies around your clients. You can put just these, basically what I teach people to do, but you can also create a blessing ball of light where you put this on your client and you just pull in their higher beings, guides, angels, whatever you want to believe, that can help them heal as well. And then that way you do your thing, you help set up their energy, you keep your energy separate, and that you're better for it, and they're kind of better for it too in a way, because they have this higher light coming through them. Right. But you're not wrong. I mean, your job's very physical too. So So by the end of the day, you've worked really hard. But I think it sounds like you're also pulling in all people's stuff into you. Yeah.
I may be better at it now.
Maybe.
But I need to learn a little bit more of what I'm doing on that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm just so centered in on getting these joints to let go, release. Right. I'm more of a physical person.
Right. Yeah, so, and that's great. Yeah, I mean, that's important. It takes all kinds of people working from different angles to make the planet work, right? If we're all the same, it'd be like a boring planet.
Sure would, wouldn't it? A bunch of cookie cutters.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
So tell me about your childhood. Where you grew up in Canada, and you went to high school, and my parents, they're originally from India. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, and so my father actually, he got typhoid when he was 17. He lost most of his hearing in one ear and a little bit left in the other. But he was part of a family of academics. His father had passed away when he was 12. He was a famous and well-known mathematician in India. And his uncle was a judge who presided over the sentencing for the people accused of assassinating Mahatma Gandhi.
Wow, so he was up there, huh?
Yeah, so my father wanted to be a doctor, but he didn't have the hearing to listen from a stethoscope.
Right.
Because he was born in 1929. And so he ended up he was a genius, and he ended up, he did a couple of degrees in India. Then he moved to the U.S. to St. Louis, did another master's, and then almost a PhD in engineering, switched degrees, became did a PhD in audiology. Then he and my mother were introduced in India. And then they kind of self-arranged. They were both old in their 30s, for the 1960s.
Self-arranged marriage.
Yeah, so they were okay, a day later, they were okay, we'll get married.
Sure,
and then
might as well. A day later?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so they moved to, my father had to start his teaching position at McGill University in Montreal. And my mother joined him soon thereafter, as soon as her visas, and they actually got married, I think sort of a Christian wedding with all his coworkers, because they didn't know anybody. And then my mother has her father was in the military, and her father's side, her mother's brothers and all that were also in the military, but her father was also a surgeon, a brain surgeon, and in the military. And
in India.
In India.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then they had this really great house in the Himalayas when her father retired that I did not get to see, but which is now, it's actually a hotel now.
You can go there someday.
Yeah, I probably can't afford it.
I can't afford my own little place.
I know. It'd be hey, my mother kind of lived here.
Go, well,
yeah. Sorry. There's the shed for you and a bush if you need it, But yeah, and she was kind of into, when she was 28, she got a full scholarship at the University of Hawaii for a master's in theater. And so she came to, like, she'd always wanted to go to the States. So when you think about manifesting, it was a full ride scholarship. And then she was able to convince them to let her travel the U.S. to visit theaters. And she and this other woman from the Philippines went and traveled all over the U.S. And they saw like the Space Needle in Seattle, like just when it came out, like when it was, I haven't even been to the Space Needle.
I think I drove by it once.
Yeah, it was too expensive. One time I was going to go and it was so expensive and you have to wait 4 hours. And we're like, forget that.
Yeah, right. So you can go up there and look around. All right.
Yeah, just take
like
a picture.
Sears Tower, right?
Yeah, I only live there. I can do it anytime, right?
I know that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
I'll get back to that.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
So we grew up on the greatest street. We were half a block from one of the elementary schools, and that one would start a French immersion program a year before I started kindergarten. So I got French immersion, which means like it used to be just like an English school, and then you would, because it was French and English schools, and you wouldn't learn French till you were like in 4th grade. And here they started in kindergarten. And then they continued it. They added a grade 7 because they didn't know what to do with us, and then they continued the program to the high school. So I also learned how to read, write, and learn to do math when I was 4 in a preschool in French.
In French.
Yeah. So I learned. That was actually harder than kindergarten.
No kidding.
Yeah, I used to be super smart, but I wasn't the kind of smart that got bored. I've always been somebody that loves to learn. So even if I was repeating stuff in 1st grade, I didn't care. I like people. I like people in my class. I like learning. Yeah, I can learn it again.
As long as it interests you.
I don't know. I just like learning. Yeah. So I wasn't that smart. I wasn't one of those people.
Right. Like genius quality like the folks, right?
Yeah. They would do nothing and then like get A's.
Right.
So I had to work for it, but.
Yeah. But you did well in school, must have.
Yeah, I did well in school, but less and less as they went to higher and higher levels.
Did you?
Because I wasn't the smart of the smart. Yeah. I think I was one of the hardest workers, so that got me by.
There you go.
And then as they went to higher and higher levels and also more competitive schools, it was like, what are all these hardworking people doing?
Right.
I'm supposed to be the only one. And then, I became basically average, because there were just so many people that were actually maybe smarter. I didn't have a great memory, but I would work really hard to learn everything.
You're from India. You must be super smart, right? That's what they figure
genetically, that's what they say, right?
Right. Trying to prove it.
Yeah, but yeah, we grew up on a great. I'm still in touch with people, 2 families that lived on the street. Just different people that now are spread around everywhere. But yeah.
When I had younger kids. I sent them to a school in Michigan, and I know they had a Spanish immersion, kind of like what you're saying. They took one of the old elementary schools that they weren't using, and they turned into and you really weren't allowed to speak anything but Spanish once you walked in, right? Mm-hmm. Is that kind of how it was?
The teachers weren't super strict. Sometimes they would, in your class, you would have to speak French to each other, but. Sometimes they weren't that. So, if you were doing activities and you were just engaging with your friends, you spoke in English.
Sure, right.
But, we did just so much grammar and stuff. And, of course, living in the U.S., French has been fairly useless. But,
exactly.
But my sister took a couple of years of Spanish. And then when she moved to the U.S., she'd worked in a rehab. There was a lot of Spanish speaking. And she got a lot better.
Sure.
And for me, it's like, they look at me and they go, oh, you look, they think I'm Spanish. And I'm like, no comprendo, no inglés,
No habla.
Yeah.
Right.
So I pull out my phone and they have these, I found an app that I can speak English and it'll speak Spanish out.
Oh, yeah,
and
I've
vice
seen
versa.
those.
Yeah.
How neat is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember in high school, they asked Spanish or French. Well, living in Michigan, it seemed obviously we're going to deal with more French people.
Right.
Not even close. I was a terrible. They should have put us all through Spanish.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never had anybody try to speak to me in French.
I've had a couple of people
Maybe
through the
Canada,
years.
yeah.
But I mean, in the U.S. as clients. Really? But yeah, Spanish is the way to go.
Yeah.
But French was the way to go when I was in Montreal.
Right.
Yeah. Spanish wouldn't have gotten me too far.
Exactly.
In Montreal. Right. But I had no idea, that I would, move to the U.S. I was 26 when I decided to move.
Right.
So, yeah. But I did so much French, it's still in there, not fresh.
Sure.
But it's not like where you do 1 year of a language and then you lose it.
Yeah.
I had like 13 years, age 4 to 17. So
that's quite a bit.
Yeah. And they're kind of those, and it just absorbs in. Like
that's
when
true.
You're 4,
right.
It just went in. I didn't have to try and learn it. And I tried to learn Arabic when I went to Egypt one time, and I gave up like in 3 seconds.
No kidding.
Because it was like, oh, why is this so hard?
Yeah.
But, I was like 40 something. So.
Yeah, I had a Vietnamese guy tell me one time, if you come over here after you're 14, you're going to hold on to that accent for the rest of your life. But if you got here before 13 or 14, a lot of people, Vietnamese, they don't have any of that. They could probably speak both languages, but they don't have that accent. So it must be somewhere right around there where your brain, 13, 12, do you agree with that? Somewhere around there?
Well, I think it really depends on the person because like if I were to like talk with somebody who's Australian, I'll just start to have words come out that like sound like Australian with an Australian accent because I started to adapt. And even when I was living in Rhode Island, that's where I went to grad school, within 5 years, my friend said that I sounded American. And
really?
Yeah, because Canadians enunciate more. So they told me,
sure.
They told me I was slurring my words.
You're just blending everything together like a stupid American.
Yeah. But I don't have the ear for it. So people sometimes when I tell them, I have Canadian roots, they're like, oh yeah, when you say about and this and that. And I'm like, I'm not saying a boot. I'm not saying that. But there might be some kind of little twang, Canadian twang right. I still have for certain words. And
my dad was a salesman. He would go down to Tennessee for a week and he'd come back talking with a southern drawl.
Right.
It's just like that. You just pick it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I remember a friend from school and he'd moved to South Carolina and he's like, oh yeah, I'm not picking it up. And at some point in the conversation, he went, y'all. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you think.
Yeah. That y'all fits some places where nothing else fits.
Exactly. So does A, like right, Canadian A is, you know what I mean, eh? Sometimes you just have to say it. It's just not. Right. And if you're from Michigan, you might have picked up some of that too. Sometimes I've met people that were on the border states that sounded a little Canadian.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
I listen to some speakers that are from Canada, so I do pick up the A, because I did hear that in Michigan.
Right.
Take off to the UP, Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
There a lot of that,
So back to your question, I think it probably depends on the person. Like if they're very adaptable, they might lose their entire accent, or if they really try to,
trying to blend in.
Yeah, they might change. But just like your father goes just away for a week and he comes back speaking he sounds like he's from the South, and so I think it would probably depend.
Yeah. Maybe he'd be really good at languages. Maybe
right?
The way he just soaked it up.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Or at least very good at accents.
Right. Exactly. So the name of the program, what's next?
Yeah.
How are you coming up on, how long is this contract now?
This one, well, it ended July 2nd, but I was able to get a week and a half extension, and then my sister's getting married in a couple of weeks, so I'm going to go back up, and it doesn't look like I'll be able to come back.
Okay.
But I'll look for something else, and I want to work on the intuitive coaching business for a little bit, too.
That's a good idea, right?
Yeah, because that's really my passion.
Sure.
So, and I enjoy writing, and I know we talked a little bit about, because I spent a few years doing some screenwriting and learning a whole bunch of stuff. So.
Oh, I forgot about that. Do tell about that.
Yeah.
What were you writing?
Well, I have just always been really interested in writing, but I never thought I was that amazing. But I just loved it. Just somehow I never only had 2 teachers in elementary and high school that actually taught grammar and English. But I read a ton of books, so I started taking some little writing courses in university, basically, and then in my 40s I started taking all these little courses through Ed2Go, and then I came across. I don't even know how it happened, but I just came across this teacher who was teaching screenwriting classes, and he was so brilliant because he had learned through his business, like he had learned to go to companies and help companies like figure out the model of other companies that were successful, and then help that company become successful. So he did that with screenwriting, and he interviewed actors and directors and all kinds of things and modeled and figured out what needs to go into a screenplay and all these things. So I did a 6-month class, and then I did a 1.5-year class, and then I repeated half the 1.5-year class. And I wrote three screenplays with him, and I also done my first one based on 2 Ed2Go classes. And yeah, there's so much that goes into a screenplay. Like you have to make every character sound different, and you can't just waste conversation. Like every line of dialogue has to have this meaning, things like subtext, things are going on under the surface that keeps people engaged and guessing and wondering and worrying, and you've got to have twists and surprise. There's so much, and it's just so mentally stimulating to me. And it's so, in a way, efficient compared to, let's say, writing a book. Because a book, you can put all the feelings and all this stuff. But in a screenplay, you may have heard show, don't tell. So you might have a description that shows something, or somebody says a line, and you have to kind of get, like some meaning. I mean, it could be something simple like, oh, let's stop at McDonald's. Well, that means they're hungry, maybe, right? Instead of saying, oh, I'm hungry, that's sort of like, what's that called? I've been away from it for a couple of years, right. But there's certain things that it sounds so fake if you just say how you feel.
Sure.
I'm happy, but instead you want it through their voice, through something. I mean, it's just, there's so many subtleties, and it's just fun. And there's sort of things about a story, how you tell a story and how you build it up. And then there's structure also to keep it going. And then every genre has its things too. A romance will have like 2 people that want to get together, but there's always going to be these tensions, and they're going to get together, but yet you worry they may not, even though they will. And how to keep you so engaged and, wanting to keep reading if you're reading a screenplay, or, for most people watching a movie. So it's like, because I know so much, like, I'll kind of know when things are supposed to happen because I understand the structure. And, so it's kind of like interesting to watch, like how they're doing it, how I can see it from a different standpoint now.
Right.
Yeah.
I used to have a movie store, so I'm very much into movies. And sometimes you put on a movie and it's like, wow, this is terrible. Is it the acting, or is it that he wouldn't really say that? It's terrible writing. Also,
it is.
On top of it.
It is. Yeah.
And I think you hit on that. It's exactly it. You wouldn't say, "I'm hungry."
Right.
You'd say, "Hey, let's run on a."
Yeah.
Hey, you think McDonald's is open? Or
yeah.
It's just not the way you would speak. It just sounds ridiculous.
Right. Well, you would conversations. You would say that, right?
Yeah,
but in a movie,
right,
you can't. So basically, the essence of any movie is a good screenplay. Like if you have have you ever seen a terrible movie with the best actors?
I have.
Right?
Exactly.
That's exactly it.
Right.
Because they're probably doing great acting, but the story, I just remember seeing Jennifer Aniston in one movie one time, And she did a fantastic job of acting. It was so out of her normal kind of movie. And I just thought, wow, like she may have even won an award. But the story was like, I'd already done screenwriting. I remember just thinking, they could have done so much with that story. Like, it was a really good concept. And not that I have the skills to write what I'm thinking, like, the A-list writers. Sure. But I just felt like, wow, like
but you can identify it.
I could identify it. And I could be like, if you'd done this and this and this and added this to the story, it could have just made it so much more. So, yeah, it comes down to the writing, I think. And that's the essence of it. I think you could have terrible acting with a really great screenplay.
Yeah.
But if there was a really, really great screenplay, it would likely, well, not always, but it might make it to the higher level producers who then have access to, the best directors and the best actors and,
actors.
like, yeah. So then you would get good people to, and then the budget's a lot bigger too.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes also, like, a lot of really great actors choose to support people that haven't made it in the industry. Like, they're not always about their money. They really want to support people, and they will go and act in maybe B movies just out of just trying to help people, kind of, because it's very hard to break in.
Yeah.
So
I'm a big fan of, like, Focus Films.
Which one? What's that?
Is a production company called Focus Films. And they seem to do something that's a little bit more out of the ordinary, but they do have some big actors in it sometimes, but it's maybe a little slower of a story or something a little bit more beautiful scenery to it.
Those artistic movies.
Yeah, I love those. Yeah. Love those. Maybe they don't have gunfights and, this and that, but they're put together nicely.
Like, there's a nice feel.
They really brought in a good screenwriter or a good story and, and really worked with it. It's really neat to see somebody that really cares about the craft more than just kicking out Marvel films all day long,
Right. Yeah. Like, I'm not really into Marvel films, but I can watch them with family because I get so much enjoyment watching them enjoy it.
There you go. That's true, right?
And that's, where I'll get it. But totally I typically won't choose to watch it myself, by myself.
Right.
Kind of thing. Yeah. But yeah, it's just fascinating, like screenplays and that whole realm. And you kind of have a couple of generations from you that were in the industry. It was, who was it you were saying, your grandfather?
Well, my grandpa was a movie producer in Hollywood. Right. Back in the 30s and 40s, right around the war.
And he was the golfer, right?
He was the golfer, right.
Top golfer in the world, one of the tops. Yeah.
So they were just trying to find a place for him since he had lost his wife. He still had 3 little girls, and they were saying, well, where can we put him where he's still helping out with the war but won't get drafted? I don't know if his golfing buddies or his friends, or I don't know, but they found a spot at Path A Labs and they bought it, it's a long story, but that's kind of the overdraft, basically. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of neat. So, he got to work with some of the big wigs and Bing and Bob and, those guys.
The classic
people. Golf.
Yeah.
They brought him right in.
Yeah.
So, it was neat. I guess that's part of my love for the cinema and that type of thing. Just love.
Yeah, I love movies too.
They mean something.
Yeah, I see them differently now.
Do you?
Yeah, just like, I'm like, because like I have this idea for something to write, and I, now that I'm gonna have some time off, it's like, I gotta get going on just writing the screenplay idea that I came up. But now, like, with Netflix now, they make all these series, and I was thinking, I wonder if you could turn it into, a little bit of a series, like a. What do they call them? But I mean, like, it's
miniseries
kind of thing. But go season after season after season. But you don't do repeats, and they don't. They hold maybe something for each episode, like a little story. But the story keeps evolving, and so it's like that's that's what's happening. People are watching, more of those. And like I don't know if you ever saw The Man in the High Castle.
I
think it's Amazon. Oh, it's so good. It was one of the best movies or shows I've ever seen in my life. And then, yeah, it was so good.
Man in the High Castle.
Yeah, I think it's Amazon, and it's a lot. There's a lot of violence, and I'm typically not drawn to violence, but it was so well done, and I loved it so much. And then I tried to watch other things afterwards, and I couldn't find anything, so I watched the entire thing over again.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that with a few shows. You get done with it and you're like, there's no way I'm going to be able to find anything after that.
Right.
I'll just watch it again.
Yeah, it was so good. Yeah, it was so good. And I went through it again. And then, there are things you miss because there's a lot of intrigue.
Right.
Yeah, the premise is that the Japanese and the Germans won the World War II.
Mm.
And they're in charge of the U.S. And then there's this whole story about that. It's just so well done.
Speaking German.
Yeah.
Sprechen Sie.
And Japanese. And Japanese.
And Japanese, huh?
Yeah. So they were like territory. Yeah. Yeah. There were two kind of, and everybody
I saw that, not like an advertisement for that.
Like a trailer or something.
Yeah. Was it years ago now?
Well, it could be because I think there were 4 or 5 seasons.
Was there? Okay.
And then I saw it last year. So it's got to have been like, you definitely could have.
Yeah. They won the war. There was still swastikas flying on the flags and stuff like that.
Yeah, they changed the American flag and all this stuff.
Really? Yeah. Got rid of it? Wow. I think it's just wow, I don't know if I'm ready for that one.
Well, there's just some really good heroes in the story.
Is there?
Yeah, it's just
cool.
Yeah, it's really, I should see it a third time.
Yeah, all right. You watch it again.
Yeah.
I did with Longmire too. I just couldn't find anything good. And
Longmire?
Longmire's a Netflix show.
Oh, I never saw that.
I just got so into it, I couldn't find anything good.
What's that about?
Oh, it's about a small town sheriff, and he's just on the edge of an Indian reservation, and then the gambling casinos come in. And then there's Russian mafias is trying to fund the hotels that are going around it. And then there's this, there's just one thing after another. And this poor small town sheriff's trying to keep it all together. And, between the Indians was super interesting. And there was all kinds of different aspects to it,
The Man in the High Castle in a way is like that.
Is it?
Because there's the Germans and the Japanese, they don't get along. And then the Americans are we want our country back. And so, and there's just who's willing to break the law. And it just because if you did, there were a lot of consequences and, the rebellion and all, a lot. It's just really cool, though. How
cool.
Yeah.
Next week, maybe 2 weeks from now, whenever we can get the schedules together, I've got a gentleman coming in who is an on-site screenwriter.
Mm.
So when he'll be there at the movie, and if things aren't right, he'll have to quick rewrite the scene.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
What? Holy cow. I was I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah. I mean, he could be also one of the major, he does it. He just steps into it, or he also helped write it.
I think he just shows up as an on-site rewriter.
Could be.
A screen rewriter.
Could be.
He called himself.
Yeah. You got to think fast and you got to.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's really neat.
Yeah. The director and actor's it's not working for me or whatever. And you got to be because you got to stop production. You got to rewrite. You got to do it right away.
Now. That's
high pressure.
And it's got to match.
Yeah.
What you just did and what they're about to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right.
How did you meet that person?
Here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They come in here and needing some adjustment and need some help. And not adjustment, it sounds like a chiropractor. But
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some body straightening out. So that was really interesting. That was a neat. And I was having this thought when we were talking earlier. Now, if you've got a top grade actress on scene and they read a line and they're like, you know what, I'm sure somebody that's just starting out acting wouldn't dare say anything like that. But if you get a Robert Duvall or somebody like that going, you know what, I wouldn't say that. It wouldn't come out that way. It's a stupid thing to be written. It needs to be rewritten. Could you do that? Clearly you can. You got to rewrite it right on site. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That screenwriter you'll talk to will be able to really fill you in. I don't know a lot.
Sure.
I'm kind of an entry level kind of writer, but yeah, he would know exactly like the circumstances of
Right.
why, something isn't working. And then to be able to just, yeah, if he didn't even write it, then he's got to fit into that whole feeling and the style of writing.
Right.
Like if they do say, hey, sometimes it can be a line, I'm sure. And sometimes it's like, we got to like redo the scene or take the scene out or take these 3 scenes turn into 2. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure. And that would be like, whoa.
Right. And the original screenwriter like yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing in my movie?
Well, that's the thing.
Just chop it up like that.
Well, and that's the thing. Like when one of the things I got right from the start is, let's say you write a screenplay and then you're fortunate to find somebody who wants to produce it.
Right.
You really have to release it because they're the ones with the money. They're the ones that are going to, and they may want to have changes made that you don't want to, but you will lose if you have an attitude, they get thousands of screenplays. They're not going to want to work with you. They'll even fire you probably. If it's a good screenplay and you're being trouble, you're like, no, I don't want it. I love this scene. Like they'll scratch you and they'll get another writer to finish it. You might get the story credit, but you have to be easy to get along with. You have to release it. Your screenplay becomes your baby, but right from the start, when I heard that, I'm like, I will never do that because
that's a good point.
I'm just going to be gracious. Like, wow, you're actually interested in putting time and money and investment into something I wrote. You want me to change something? I will do whatever you say.
Sure.
And also because they also have knowledge. They know what's going to work more than I do. Like they have the experience to know, like, I might say, oh, this scene is the best scene ever. Like, cause blah, blah, blah. And they're like, but it's not, they've got to sell. There's a lot of competition. And to make a movie work, you have to let the people, choose what, is going to make work.
Right.
They might want to change something. You have to just be easy to get along with and release it and not feel like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. But they do probably know what they're talking about.
You have to know that they know what they're talking about.
Yeah. And maybe if you're an A-list screenwriter, what you say might mean something like, and the other thing, like you could also say, when I wrote this scene, this is what I thought I could say. Like, this was my intention and this is why. And it could be that I just didn't I didn't express it right. Because the thing with writing is you in your head know exactly what you're thinking and feeling, and it's not always translated onto the paper. And somebody else reads it, but they're not in your head.
Right.
So you might think they get it, but they didn't. And it could be, if you said it like that, they're like, oh, that is great, but we need to rewrite it because that's not clear.
Sure.
Or they'd be like, nah, that sucks.
Right.
And you have to be like, sure,
You're
okay.
Right, that does suck. Ow.
Yeah. You can be like, okay, how do you want it to be changed? And,
sure.
And just go with the flow and be easy.
Right. Yeah. Because like you said, there's just an ocean of screenwriters out there.
Right.
You always hear that from directors. It's like everywhere I turn around, I go into the bathroom at the restaurant, and somebody's trying to hand me a daggone screenplay.
Exactly.
Like everywhere I go. So yeah, you have to be cool.
Yeah.
If they decide to work with you.
Exactly.
How interesting.
Yeah.
So what kind of story do you want to put together?
Well, I've always
sounds like you've already got one. Or two put together.
Yeah, I've had like a few. Like I've written like kind of like a little bit of a comedy in that, and I really like kind of characters and things like that. And
sure.
Yeah, like I'll just tell you like just sort of a gist of one. Like I had a one that I wrote. That's probably my best one. Is a high school student. She's like getting A's and she's doing great in school, and she's seeing this guy, and he gets down on one knee and at a baseball game, and he's like this big baseball star, and she thinks he's going to propose, but he was offering a ring, like just a friendship ring or something, and this guy kind of egged him to do it in front of everybody instead of taking her, and it's taken all out of context, and she's all upset because he declares he's gay, and it wasn't supposed to be public. He got like this guy kind of, like influenced him to do it then. And so she goes and she like creates this, she goes and spray paints like something, and it's like, it's against the law to do that. And she's supposed to be valedictorian. And the principal says, look, you can't be valedictorian. What you did is committed a crime and blah, blah, blah. But however, if you go and help these students that are failing their last year, will reconsider you for valedictorian. So she finally says yes, and they turn out all to be her ex-boyfriends.
Oh no.
So that's kind of the premise of it. And then, like they're all
really picking winners, huh?
yeah. Well, one of them's faking it, who came for his final year, that they kind of had a crush on each other in elementary school.
Oh, for her. I see.
Yeah.
Right,
and then so he fakes it because he overhears them talking. But the other three are actually failing, but they're not. But there's emotional reasons. There's stories why they are.
Right.
And so we kind of go into that. And then, at the end, she does end up with one of them. So, but, it's just fun. It's just fun stuff. Yeah.
I loved, like I said, I love movies. I love storytelling. And I love to listen to apps that will teach you or different things that teach you how to tell a story. And there's an absolute art to it. There's a way to tell a story.
There's a structure of it.
There's a structure, and it's very interesting to see how they build this, and they'll break down all these different stories, how the main character had a problem. He,
it's a call
went
to
through
adventure.
A certain thing, and then he had to come out of it, and he had to rebuild himself, and he had to come back, and he had to make the full circle, and
And then you have to fail, and then try to
exactly. It's almost every story follows that same line.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, so we learned that, and I even learned that in some of the basic courses that I took about story structure, because I didn't know.
Story structure,
yeah.
I wish I had better words to explain what I'm trying to say. But it's very interesting how they're all, how the human mind works, I think is what they're trying to do.
Right.
Create this and then create overcoming and coming back around and being the hero at the end after all the adversity. And it's a very cool talent to be able to take that structure and put your own mind around it and put your own story into that, because it's something that already works. So you want to use that story,
right? And
just change the story,
right? Exactly, and the details.
Does that make sense? Right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Because we learn that too.
Yeah,
and I think one of the reasons people love movies is that it's because we identify. So basically, you have like this ordinary. Usually, it's an ordinary person,
right?
There's this call to adventure, and it's called the call to adventure, and it's way beyond what that person could ever imagine doing.
Right.
And so at first they're like saying, no, I'm not going to do it. And that's really the first act.
Right.
And then at the end of the first act, they go, okay, I'll do it. And so they try to do it, but then they'll fail, and then they have to keep trying. And I think
like Frodo.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
didn't want to do it, but he had to do it.
Yeah.
And then he had to come over. Yeah. It's just same story. It's so cool.
And it's what's it called? It's like the hero's journey. So I think why we like them is because we're in our own lives, and we're hoping to elevate ourselves and get higher and evolve ourselves in our lives and create more in our lives. So we almost like watch this character and trying to pull it into ourselves, like, oh, well, I could do that maybe.
If I could just get over this adversity.
Exactly.
And get to this point, then I can.
Yeah. And how do they do that? And, and in life, you have to be willing to fail too. It's never a smooth ride. Yeah. I mean, that's the reality. So I think that's why we love movies, because it's talking about us in a different story.
Exactly.
We relate to it.
Right. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the basic of learning how to write a screenplay. It's just that storyboard.
Right.
And fitting everything into it. That's so cool to me.
Yeah, or even a novel too. Like it's the same thing. There's this structure. Like I learned the structure before I kind of came across the screenwriting class, and then went, oh, let's take these two. And then I there must have been some reason for me to do it, because I'm usually pretty cheap about stuff. And I'm like, okay, I knew I wanted to write a specific like episode of a certain show. It was already there. Just like, even though I knew it would suck, but I'm like, no, I'm going to take these 2 courses and I'm going to invest in this. Like I started looking up softwares for screenwriting, and I chose one, and I was going to try and use Word, and like, there's just certain ways like a screenplay looks. And I was going to try and figure out all this fancy stuff. And then I'm like, no, I'm going to just spend the money. And thank God, because it is so much easier. Like it'll put the names of the characters, and you just have to, do these little things, and it'll put the name in the right place, and it puts the dialogue, under that. And certain things require a little more space.
Yeah.
But there must have been something for me to go and say, no, I'm going to get a proper software, and made myself wait 3 months while I took these 2 courses, wrote 1 story, and then found this big, huge teacher. But yeah, like every story kind of comes to that structure, and once in a while somebody will break it once in a while, and do something different. But for the most part, as far as I know, and the screenwriter you're going to meet, since he's more in the in the world of writing, might know more about that structure. I'm sure you can get more into that conversation.
There are some directors that are chopping up the movies. And they'll start you at a crazy scene, and then they'll go back, and then they'll take you to another scene and take you to around a full circle. And it's like, I'm not sure what I'm watching here, because I'm not on that regular, right?
Yeah, I think one of my
very interesting.
I think my first screenplay in one of the big classes was that I had like too many characters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like when you're trying to learn to write, you want to be as low budget as possible, because you're probably going to access low level producers that are trying to make it, that don't have budgets. Right. So you want to have as few characters, as few scenes, like few locations, and you keep, just all the way down. And the other one I didn't know at the time was you don't want to have kids in it either, because there's all these rules of making sure, like all kinds of labor laws for children, and making sure they get their education.
Sure.
So if you're trying to make it in, don't put kids in it, because that's just another layer. Like some producers will not touch it. Entry level will not touch it if there's kids, because it's that whole other dimension.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I had fun writing it, so I don't care.
I'm sure some kids would be fun to work with.
Oh no!
But for the most part, I think it would just be a nightmare on site having kids.
Well, I think if you're very tight budget, and you just have to like really watch that, then you may choose until producer actually makes it. They may choose not to do kids, keep it all adults, everybody over 18. But I mean, you can get an 18-year-old. You know how like Grease. I mean, that's the exaggerated, right? They're all in their 30s playing teenagers, but often they are in their 20s playing teenagers, right? So, but if you have little kids, it's just a dimension I think they prefer not, unless they're really passionate about the story.
Right.
So,
sure.
So there's things that you start to learn. Well, if you want to make it, this is what you need to do to keep it simple.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of like this really great movie that was just not a lot of, well, even that one, what was that one? I can't think of the name, but it was Quiet. Did you watch that one? Quiet.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and it was just like, it's all in one place, and you have to be quiet because these beings would like kill you. But I was kind of watching it. It was just like all in this one area, and it was like, wow, that's so low budget. Except they had high budget people, but actors. But you gotta just like, you can't just write and then hope it's gonna, because you start to dream, and then.
I remember this movie, and I don't remember the name of the actor, but he was pretty high up, and it was called Phone Booth. And basically, if he hung up the phone, somebody was going to die or something was.
Oh,
and the
no,
whole
I can
movie
see.
was pretty much in a phone booth.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, that's low budget. They didn't have to do any kind of scene. They'd flash away for a different couple of things.
Yeah.
But for the most part, he was just standing at the phone booth the whole time trying to. I was like, wow, they put all their money into that A actor.
Yeah.
And zero. They didn't have to
that's
do a whole lot.
brilliant writing.
Sure.
If you can do that,
Yeah.
brilliant, because you got to create all that tension and story. And, sometimes changing scenes, you think that's really going to make the story, but really the story's got to hold the story.
Yeah. Well, with what you do, there's what am I thinking? I have 4 kids, so I have seen a lot of cartoon movies in my time.
Oh, I love them. Yeah.
And there was one that I was watching, and see if I can remember it, but it was basically inside of somebody's head, and it was all of these emotions.
Oh, no, I never
And
saw that one.
Each emotion had its own character. And at the end of it, I thought, that's almost exactly like The Breakfast Club.
Oh, I love The Breakfast Club.
Because every single person had their own personality, and it covered all of the personalities.
That's a low budget film. Talk about low budget.
Also very low budget, right?
Yeah.
But they covered every single emotion that the person has through all of these 6, 7 characters, I forget.
5.
But it was almost the exact way in the emotions
yeah.
inside of the brain. We had the shy one, we had the active one, we had the sports guy, we had, it was like, wow, holy cow, that must be a story plan in itself.
Right.
A script line, you know what I'm saying? A storyboard or whatever.
Yeah, The Breakfast Club is brilliant because they're talking. They're just a bunch of talking heads,
Exactly.
which usually can be called bad screenwriting, but yet they're sitting there talking pretty much the whole, except some chase scene in the hallways at one point, but they're just talking, and yet it's riveting. And, we're from the same era. You could watch that. I've watched it a million times. I'm never bored.
Right.
It's such powerful
It
writing.
is. And it really does cover the whole human emotion.
Right.
The preppy girl, the goof, all over the board.
five different walks of high school, all in one room.
Right.
That's the concept of it.
Exactly. Right. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote that, and then whoever picked out the characters.
The actors.
Blew that through the roof too.
Yeah. They were, what are they called? The
Rat Pack,
the
kind
Rat Pack.
whatever whatever.
Love them. Yeah.
The Rat Pack was, I think, in the 50s, but this was the Brat Pack. That's
the Brat Pack. Was
That's
it the Brat
what it was.
Pack? Yeah.
Right.
I think they hated it, but they were really famous. But they were really famous too.
Sure, still are.
Yeah.
In our age, anyways.
But they're now
our age.
They should do the Breakfast Club. I don't know, maybe 30 years from now they should do the Breakfast Club scene in a nursing home.
Reunion.
They're all left in a room. And,
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one guy, he OD'd back in the 80s, and there's only about 4 or 5 of them left.
Yeah.
But that'd be really cool.
It would be cool.
But it was a random thing. There's no way that those people would ever be in the same room.
Right, and that's... Yeah.
Ever. That's what made the whole thing.
That was the concept. To get a screenplay to work, you have to have an idea, it's called a high concept, that has not been done.
I see.
And so the high concept is what can sell it. So when you start sending out ideas, your screenplay to somebody, you might make this little summary, but what they want to see is something that has not been done. And so the high concept of these 5 different groups in one room at the time was just wow. And I don't know very much about the writer, but the writer may have been already established in some way. And I don't know, but it was such a great movie. Oh my God.
Clearly had some type of a psychology background, wouldn't you think?
Or just an understanding of people and understanding screenplays and writing and dialogue and how to create tension and bring up all the topics with that and just how them sitting talking to each other.
Right. Right. One of those lines, if you saw me in the hallway tomorrow, you wouldn't even look at me. You wouldn't even see me, but here you are talking to me.
Right. And they go, yeah, you're right. I
You're
won't.
right. I
won't.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that what they
Truly,
said? He said, I won't.
Yeah, I won't.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a great concept.
Yeah.
And yeah. But boy, there's just, it's hard to do something new now because it's so, they've covered so many aspects, but they're still coming up with new stuff all the time.
Yeah. But think about it. Like, if, when we met, right, you were telling me stories about your life. I was telling you stories about my life. And we each have stories that are really worth telling, and that's just why you're doing this podcast, right?
Sure.
And so, you just have to come up with the concept. Like you have to just be really original with the concept. And once you get the concept, then you create a great story. Yeah. And then, like somebody who's going to read a screenplay will know within a page or two, like a few pages, whether this is a terrible screenplay or not. Because if it's not getting to the point, there's certain things that have to happen like right away.
Right.
Like even when I was learning, they were like, how do you make like your first scene amazing, your first page amazing, your intro amazing? Because to capture somebody's interest, you need to get them like that.
Yeah.
You can't be like, oh, but the best part was like page 56. No, that's like too far. Nobody's going to read that far if your first 55 suck.
Right.
You need it to all like capture you right away.
Yeah. I read a lot of an author named Clive Cussler, and he's very action underwater. Mm-hmm. And it's always that first scene. It's just on fire to just draw you right in, whether it's there's a story about him searching for a Spanish galleon. He starts you out on the Spanish galleon. You're taking cannonballs over the top of the, and you're, you're there,
Right.
and then the next scene, he'll switch back to modern day times and how they're going about this. But yeah, it's that first boom, we get you grab hold of to get that book going. Otherwise, boy, I've paged through 3 chapters and it's like, oh boy, I'm gonna have to put this book down. I can't. Right.
And a director or producer they're not going to wait that long. There's too many screenplays. Right. And they're also going to lose the audience.
Exactly.
Right.
And they know, like you were saying earlier, they know how to get it. I think I love Charles Dickens. They say a lot of, almost everything that he's written in that book means something. He doesn't put a bunch of fluff in there. Every sentence has something to do with that book. It all has to be there. I was like, that's very interesting, especially when you got a book that's 2 inches thick. It's like, wow, he didn't fluff around at all. It's like, really?
Great writing.
Yeah. So I don't read that much, but to hear other people that are avid readers that have read everything say, wow, this guy at that time, he just really knew exactly what he was doing. Obviously, it's the
and you don't get teachers in those days, right?
No,
like you just you just got it.
He just got it. Right. Exactly. I didn't think about that. He didn't go to some screenwriting
classes, right, to learn the works. Like
you pull it up on the internet.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. No YouTube videos.
Right.
How to write a screenplay.
Exactly. None of that. Just trial and error, I guess.
Yeah, or just like, some people just get it. Like some people they just get it. Right.
I guess that's what I was trying to get to with what I was explaining, how a story is laid out. There's people that used to just travel and they were just storytellers, and you would invite them into your home. There's long before TV or anything else, but the storyteller was in town, and he would stay at somebody's house for 3 or 4 days, and everybody in the village would come over there at night and listen to him tell stories about ancient Ireland or wherever he was,
right?
And he just had a natural knack, and of course the education to know of what he's talking about too. But he knew how to engage the audience. They would feed him for days. They'd let him live right there. And then, 3-4 days later, he'd wander on to the next little town and get invited in and be just a professional storyteller. So there's people out there that are just phenomenal at it.
Right.
Right off the jump.
And
right?
they also didn't have TV.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, probably took less to stimulate and excite people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, here we've had TV for, when the forever, right? Forever for us. But like, before that, it was the radio. Before that, there was nothing. Before that was storytellers, right?
Sure.
So when you wanted to be entertained, besides books have always existed,
true,
right?
Yeah.
But if you really, that was the TV, right?
Yeah.
So you might not have had to be that great.
Yeah, that's true, right?
I mean, you
didn't
might not
have a whole
have
lot
had
of competition, did you?
You probably didn't have to be an A-lister. You could have probably been B or C, and
Yeah, right.
like, hey, let's hear something a little more interesting.
Yeah,
right?
just the fact that he knows more than us. Let's just listen to what he has to say, huh? Right. That's true.
Or everybody was so polite, they let him stay, and they're like, never again.
Yeah,
like,
right,
sure,
right.
he can't come back to our town again. But there were so many towns, so.
Just keep moving.
That's right.
He was a one-nighter.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So what else is going on?
Oh, not much. I mean, just kind of wrapping up, and got a week and a half left of the extension of my contract.
Yeah.
And I bring so much down here that I'll spend like a couple days filling up my car, and my whole
Right.
car sinks because it's so like filled.
Just pack it all in.
Yeah, and then drive a couple of days back up to Washington State, and then my mother's coming in, and from the east Canadian East, from near Niagara Falls, and see family, and go biking with my nephew, and
Sure.
play this strategy game, and can't wait to play it. I forgot the name of it.
Get back home again.
Yeah, it'll be
Yeah,
just
do
fun.
all that.
Yeah, and so hopefully the July 4th is when the good weather is supposed to be like coming to the Northwest.
Right, right.
So hopefully.
That's kind of our mark,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And then my sister's getting married on the 23rd of July.
perfect.
So we have some family coming in. Nobody from India.
Oh,
I
okay.
think the whole pandemic made things a little nuts, but we have some family, in North America that are going to be coming, and yeah, we're just going to have a good time. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Still pretty scared over in India? I know the population is so huge.
Well, I know a couple of relatives are traveling, but
Are they?
yeah, but I think because things, I don't know, I think they chose not to make
right,
it, and
right.
it's been nice. Like, I think we're, I don't know, like the variants. There isn't a new variant coming. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there was always one ending, one coming, and now,
Exactly. Right.
I mean,
right.
it's not for sure what can happen. Like, anything can happen, but it's kind of nice that things are kind of getting back
Evening
to
out.
normal. Yeah. Yeah, because a year
crazy.
ago, I wouldn't be here without a mask. I may
No.
not even agree to do it a year
Really?
ago. Yeah, I was pretty
Were ya?
strict about it
Yeah.
in the beginning. I did not want it because
Yeah.
I'd seen what had happened to people, like losing their
Right.
sense of taste and smell permanently.
Yikes.
I love food,
Yeah.
you know.
Right. I know some people have said that it's permanent, huh?
Yeah, I know
Nice.
somebody, in fact, she'd already had her vaccination and boosted, but, she was super stressed in her life. I think she was more vulnerable, and then she got it, and she ended up losing her sense of smell and taste. It sounds like it did not come back. So everything she eats tastes like cardboard.
Wow. That would just wreck life, wouldn't it?
It would. For
Part of
me,
it.
I took up exercise because I love to eat.
Yeah, right.
Like, when I was 13, I gained a whole bunch of weight in 1 week.
Sure.
And I'm like, okay, I got to make exercise part of my life.
Balance.
Yeah.
Sure, right. Yeah.
But yeah, there are just certain things that if you don't know, it was sort of like some people are just a cold. Some people,
right.
like a coworker, she lost her sense of taste and smell. Most of it's come back, but her fiance right beside her never got anything. It was just such an interesting virus. So, yeah, so a year ago I was a little more anal, a little more like,
I guess right at first I was. They kind of freaked me out. Like 10% of Italy is dying. It's died. It's like, holy cow. Like, we better take this a little more serious. But as it went on, I get pretty sick of it. I just can't live like that. I can't live with the stress level.
yeah.
I never got sick. I work on doctors and nurses and
Right.
all day
You
long.
had a good
and
immune
people,
system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
guess.
some people did. And like my friend's ex-husband died of it.
Yeah.
'Cause his roommate went to church before the vaccine came out and went to a public church, no masks, and came back, spread it to all the roommates, and my friend's ex-husband died.
Really?
I mean, it just mattered who got it. And so many kids lost their parents.
Sure.
And, you know, it's just, if it hits you, it's terrible. And you would see it go in families. So there was a genetic component. And
I just had to get to the point where I don't care.
Yeah.
It's like I'm almost, pushing 60 in the next 3 or 4 years here.
Right.
I've had a phenomenal life.
Right.
If this is it, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I have to be okay with it because if it takes me out, I have to be okay with that. Mm-hmm. But I won't take my stress level above to where I can live.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I actually wanted it. Like these last
Truly.
two variants.
Yeah, you don't even want to say that out loud. But
you know what? I did say it out loud. I was like, I want to get it. And then my sister's like, don't try to get it because it's a clotting disease and you can get issues. And I said,
get
okay.
That too.
But I literally had somebody at work who was right beside me. We documented for half an hour, like literally right beside me, closer than you are.
Really?
And he was out for a week, and then another coworker, and we have this, our office is probably the size of this room, maybe a tiny bit bigger, and like we can have 8 or 10 people in there.
You were breathing each other's air for sure.
Those blue masks are.
Oh, you had a mask on, but still,
they're not a great mask. No. So I was like, and then I was super tired for 2 weeks, and I'm like, by the time I finally thought something was happening, I did get tested, but I was negative.
Oh, were you?
But my mother, her residents, like they're all like elderly. Mm-hmm. It took a year before it even swept through.
Really?
And they just before they were eligible for the vaccine, and out of 96 people, 8 of them died. And my mother was tested positive, but she went she said, I think I was tired. So I think I had good genetics.
Right. So maybe you got it. You just got a little tired, but you still tested
I think I was
negative.
tired for 2 weeks, and it just, I think that was how it affected. And a lot of people just came in and out. But some people later had damage to their lungs. Like the earlier variants went to the lungs and did stuff. My mother
that's true too, right? As it went on, it got less deadly, but it got more contagious because it didn't want to kill the host.
Right. It just want to last forever.
It just wanted to use it to jump to the next one.
Yeah, it was like, there was more contagious and more, and that's when I was like, okay, I'm ready to have it because that stress level, it's like, okay, I want it. And I
can't do this anymore.
Yeah, and it's a choice because like if you did get it and something happened, I said, I made that choice.
Sure.
So, and I think I've been exposed now.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I'm sure we
before,
have.
like,
I don't know how I could not have been.
Yeah, and my sister was super around because she was where it started, and there wasn't a lot of protection for staff and not enough masks and all this. And I was like, a year later, I was like, there's no way you didn't get it exposed. But she recently had it and her fiance, so now they're clear for their wedding. I'm like, you got the best booster now. It's the actual variant versus the original vaccine is a little bit off now. It's still, well, because I think it's, it's based on the original one, right?
Because of the variant. I see, right.
Yeah, so they keep, like this virus is like a cold virus, right? So it's not like the polio was like one thing.
Right.
It keeps changing. So, but they just were sick a month ago. So they're good to go for the wedding. They don't, because imagine how many people had to cancel their big events for.
So many.
Yeah, so I'm like, you're good now.
You're good to go.
Yeah.
Go ahead on. Yeah. I just couldn't do that anymore. But, people come in and they say, I've got people that are immune compromised at home. Can you wear a mask? Of course.
Right.
Of course.
Exactly.
I will.
Yeah, because it could be coming through you and not affecting you.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
I don't know enough about it. So, yeah.
We don't, except, if you're lucky not to get it, that's the thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So you're going to go back up for a little while. Mm-hmm. You're going to do some screenwriting.
Yeah, I'm hoping to step back, but I'm going to be looking for my next contract or another job.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. Okay. And there's an off chance I could come back here, but I will likely lose the housing I had because they're going to look for people as soon as I leave.
Sure.
So I loved where I lived. So.
Yeah. Do you want to go somewhere else, or you just kind of look at the list and go,
Well, the truth is I'd like to just make it in intuitive coaching. I mean, if I could do that full time,
Right.
I would love to do that because my job is so physical, like lifting, I'm not huge and I'm lifting people that are huge compared to me. And at this age, for sure, I'd like to kind of get away from that.
Something we have to start thinking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I'd rather reserve my body for sports.
There you go.
Yeah.
Keep everything rocking and rolling.
Yeah, next year, because I've done a marathon and I've done this big 200-mile bike ride. But I did a marathon when I was 49, and then I did this big bike ride thing. It's called the Seattle to Portland ride on a mountain bike over 2 days. Of course, I was a lot younger, but I want to do a half Ironman. That is one thing I want to do. I'll be super, super slow. I've got a genetic issue with my red blood cells. I can do it. I'm just super, super slow.
Sure.
That's the next big athletic endeavor I would like to do.
It's the finish line we're chasing.
Pardon?
It's the finish line we're chasing. Not so much the speed of it all.
Yeah.
Just want to get it, just do it.
Yeah, exactly. And there is one race in that they have in September. That's up in Washington State. The only thing is they say you have to be able to do like the swim, the bike, and half the run. Like, do you know what the mileages are for Ironmans and stuff? Like, I want to do the half
or something, and 22 or.
Well, I've
had a few people that do those in here, but I don't remember.
Yeah, so the swim is about a 1.1 mile swim, and then the bike ride I think is 66 miles.
Oh, is it really?
This is the half Ironman, yeah, and then half a marathon, and then the full Ironman is twice that. So I want to just do the half. The full is going to be way too much, but yeah. So you had to have done the swim, the bike ride, and half the run by a certain time, and that's going to be tight.
Right.
And it's like, well, you can tell me I can't finish the last 6 miles because I was too slow. But I mean, you could just keep running. And you know what I mean? If they can say, well, we have to take you out the course, well, then you can't stop me from running anywhere. Right. I would finish it. And for myself, I would say that. And then
everybody will be gone, but who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Right? It's like, I did it.
That's right. That's what we're chasing.
Exactly. I'm not trying to win it.
No.
Right? Exactly.
But there's a lot of people out here that do the half marathons, and
I've done a few.
I didn't know that there was a half Ironman.
Yeah, so there's a full Ironman, there's a half Ironman. The full one is like crazy. 2.1 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and 26.2. You do a full marathon at the end of that.
Wow!
Imagine being on a bike and then you get off and go to run.
Seems like when I work on people like that, everybody has their weakness. Like, oh, I'm terrible on a bike, or swimming is my weak point, so that's what they really try to work on. Right. Try to get that swimming up or wherever. It's really interesting. It's scientific.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
But
you got to be good at all three things. Woo!
Well, you have to be decent enough and keep going, and I think the order of it is out of safety because, like, if you're tired and let's say the swim was the last one, well, you drown. And you know what I mean? So they do like the swim first and the bike ride. Well, you're kind of up on wheels going, maybe
way
fast.
Too fast.
Yeah, probably. Not in my case, but even downhill I'll break. But and then the run, you're just on the ground. So if you pass out, you're just, what I mean?
Do that last.
So I think I think there's a logic why it's in that order.
Danger.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense.
So that's something I might like to do next year, but I haven't. Yeah, I keep. But we'll see. I'm having some plantar fasciitis issues with running, so I have to kind of get over that. But I was on my feet a lot with this job, so
we can fix that.
I know. You talked about like if I go in there, I don't know if I'm tough enough.
A little bit at a time.
Yeah,
just got to get that to let go, otherwise that foot will start bending. And it really cause problems.
Yeah,
and conversation kicks in. And preaching to the choir, right?
Yeah. Well, but I also need to like use some of my energy stuff also and try to clear what's going on there too. So
I wish I had more questions to ask you about the energy thing. I just am not.
You don't know what to ask.
I don't know what to ask.
Right.
I other than like we talked about a little bit, where I can feel it on people. But I don't even know what to ask you on that. What do you want to study next on that?
I don't know. Like right now, I just, you just find courses. You just find a lot of, Yeah, you just find courses and different people. Like I just always found something. And right now I'm still going through this one teacher, but then one of my friends is learning through a new teacher. And so she's teaching me things such as, because we're always getting our guidance, or the universe is talking to us, or our guides or whatever, but we're usually so chatty in our heads and think, that she'd come up with this thing. She said, yeah, you ask the question every day and you sit quietly for a half an hour and wait for the answer. And one of the things of guidance is like, when you want to manifest something, it's not like you're going to just like, everything's just going to fall in your lap. You're going to be guided to take actions. And you're going to be also, so you're not just sitting here waiting to order, your plate of food. You've got to go like to the restaurant, and you've got to like do something, and you got to take actions, and you got to take actions you've never taken before that are going to feel uncomfortable or scary, to get beyond where you are, to pull that in. And then the work I do is like, the more light you can hold, the easier it is to like start to manifest things. Like I really felt I kind of manifested you in a way. Like it was just really cool to be on this podcast, because like a year ago, or somebody else was gonna, or maybe a year and a half ago, was gonna have me. A friend said, "Oh, I'll get you on this podcast with this person." It never worked,
right?
But I always thought that would be the coolest thing.
Sure.
And I literally walked off a massage table that day because I knew the place was not professional. Like they were not polite. They didn't want my name. It was all weird. And I said, I'm out of here, because I have a heel cord injury and I needed communication. So I literally walked off. I had already seen you online. And then it was like, but I saw your slots were filling up. I'm like, Menaka, just like do it. So I did it. And then I got to meet you. And then, you're such a fascinating person, just what you were sharing about your family.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
The fact you did this podcast. Like, it just felt like, wow, like you are a manifestation.
That's what I was looking for, huh?
Yeah. Well, I forgot I was looking for it.
Right.
Yeah. So you pull, like, one of the things I do also is like, I will send energy to pull like people, circumstances, events that will help you move forward in life, or, like just grow you in life kind of thing. So like I try to pull that in. So I felt like you were that, for whatever it's worth. It's like something I've never done before. So It's just a fun and new adventure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Since I've been here to California, I've had a lot of people talk about their spirit guides, or their animal guides, or their, I don't know what they're talking about. I'm from way up in the woods.
Yeah, from Michigan.
So yeah, it's interesting to listen to that. There must be a school of thought, because I've heard it more than once, where they actually have animal guides that are helping them through, or it's like, I'm not sure if I get that.
Yeah. And I think it's people, there's just other beings that exist outside the realm of like reality, kind of like what people see that you can touch. But sometimes I think they'll appear to you as you want them to appear.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, let's say, you're very religious. So you might have one of the, the real, the known angels or Jesus or somebody come to you. But if you are of a different religion, that's my belief. Whatever you want to pull in will kind of show up. And so people have animal guides that are, they're just like these beings in another realm that can help you, guide you through life, like your own trainer that knows more than you and can guide you. But you always want to hold on to your, like, in my opinion, and other people, you also always want to hold on to your own power. You don't want to blindly follow something. You've got to also make sure it feels right inside of you, that it's, you're also wanting to learn to use your own intuition of what is the right thing to do and what steps, like, because you were in construction, right? And then I don't know if at one point you'd never imagined you would be doing what you're doing now, right?
Right.
But somehow something spoke to you. You used your own guidance. You went to school, and you created the life you have now.
Right.
And that was, I would believe, listening, they talk about your higher self too. There's this really wise part of you that's also communicating. That's part of who you are.
Right.
And so there's just a lot of different voices that you can perceive to help you go through life. Like you have a teacher, right? You know, like you can go to school and you get teachers, or you go to the gym, you get a trainer, right? So there's people, you know, there's beings like that can help you through your life if you can listen. But you also, like I said, you don't want to go blindly.
Right.
You know, and there's also not so great energies there.
Right.
And I remember my friend he would hear voices, right? And he came to our home years ago. I remember I already believed that there were things out there that were lower energy.
Sure.
I told him, I said, "Oh, your voices are real." And I remember thinking later, was that helpful or worse? Like, was that worse news?
Is that good or bad?
Is that worse news? But there are ways to clear out those energies. Because in my belief system, when you pass away, your soul still exists and you go to the light. But some people get stuck in the in between. Sometimes they don't even know they died. And sometimes they, you know, if it's a very traumatic, quick death, sometimes they don't pass on fast enough.
Right.
And that's what ghosts are.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, they can be energies where you'll feel like, I remember when I interviewed for one of my contracts for 24 hours, I felt this, I don't get really nervous for like an interview or something like that, because I just go and have a conversation. And, so it was 24 hours before I was going to interview over the phone, and I felt this tremendous anxiety for 24 hours. And I'm like, why am I so anxious? And then had the interview, found out this hospital had a wing for prisoners. And I'm not prejudiced. Like, I really know people just do the best in life.
Sure.
But I think some of those darker energies that were around the prisoners in that place came into my home and attached to me.
Sure.
And as soon as I came off the phone, I called my recruiter and I said, I don't want to do this contract. I don't know why, but I'm getting such a sick feeling about it. And she totally supported me.
Really?
And then like that thing went.
Really?
Yeah, there's just stuff around that people don't want to know about it. But you can learn how to protect your own energy pretty easily, actually.
Right.
And then so sometimes like your emotions are not even your emotions. So you could be beside somebody. So aside from these other things around us, you can enter and you're just suddenly really pissed off.
Right.
You don't even know why, but you're with somebody who's pissed off, and you've taken that up, you put it into you, and then you like feel it. Just like when you were talking about your massage and your heart started to go. You can do that with emotions.
Right.
So, so that then also becomes a trick. Is this mine? Is this something else? Is that somebody else's? Or
that's something you need to know, though, because I would just automatically think that's me.
Yeah, you have to stop and ask.
Right.
And sometimes your guidance will tell you, but it has to occur to you to stop and ask.
Right.
Is this mine?
Yeah.
But if it's so out of context, that's when you might pay attention.
Yeah.
Like I didn't understand that anxiety. And another time I was going to go live somewhere, I got kind of stranded actually down here when the pandemic started, because where I live was the height at the beginning and I didn't go back up. And finally my sister said, oh, there's this place and this whatever. And then I talked to them and they dealt with all these crazy energies. And I started to get this weird anxiety. That was the first time I'd had this anxiety. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm living in this cheap hotel. Or I could go live in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath place for really cheap, attached to their other part of the house of these people, near my family. And I chose to be 1,000 miles from my family and stay in a cheap hotel where there was brown water coming out sometimes, because they were delving in weird energies, but they didn't know how to clean their space. And one of them, I know it sounds really crazy, but it came down, locked into me. And as soon as I said to myself, there's no way I'm living there, it detached and disappeared.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Right.
It was weird.
Feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard different things from somebody who has passed. You hear things happening that they used to do. It's like, is their energy still here? That's a shame. I hate to think that they're stuck here.
Yeah, and what you can actually do is if if you have a loved one, you can just like imagine light in them.
Right.
And then just visualize them in light and going up to the light kind of thing. You can actually just kind of do that.
You can send them away, huh?
You can send them up or just ask their guidance to help them get to the other side.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you think years later, it's like, are they still there? They're still stuck in that particular spot?
They can be.
Yeah.
They can be. That would be it's a lot. Terrible. Oh, yeah. And I was going to say, like, you saw the movie The Sixth Sense way back when, right? Sure. So some people can really perceive those energies. I can sometimes know, but I don't perceive. And I've met people, though, that can really perceive. But, yeah. And then, like, I had a friend when I was at part of this spiritual center, and she said, oh, yeah, like, I see all kinds of things. And then they come in, they bug me because they want me to give a message to somebody. And I said, that's so cool. Because I thought, wow, you've got this ability. And she said, it's not cool.
It's not cool.
She didn't want that ability.
Really? Right.
Yeah. So, but I've been around people that could see things.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like really perceive it. Like they're just extrasensory. But I do it for more, like if I tune in, I can kind of sense, but not as more a knowing than a like feeling. Yeah. Sometimes I'll get goosebumps if I'm really tuning in.
Sure. Right.
Yeah, but I think maybe I prefer it that way too.
Do you?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to be able to perceive everything that's there.
Not everything, but
no.
Nice to have a little bit.
Yeah, because you can just be more aware of your space and what's in it and whether you're making clear decisions, not polluted by other energies and other energies like entities and these darker, they'll pull your energy down if you let them in you and stuff. So, but it's, I don't know, energy is just really cool to me.
Yeah. My ex-wife was very sensitive on different things. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting.
Like in what way sensitive?
I remember one time she sat up and she said, I had this crazy dream that somebody named Mandela, there was just tons of black people jumping up and down, cheering. And this Mr. Mandela was speaking. We had no idea.
This was before he got,
And like 2 days later, he got released from prison. And she was watching the TV. And there's people on bleachers jumping up and down while Nelson Mandela was making the speech. It's like, how is that even possible?
Right.
That you could come up with that? You know, that's crazy.
Yeah, she knew it was going to happen.
She's not educated in that. She doesn't.
But she's just naturally psychic, or she tuned
naturally, in. Right.
Yeah.
And I had a friend die, and that night she had a vision of this girl taking her to her mom, to the girl that died's mother, and was doing this, pointing at her, like, take care of her because this is going to be rough or something. And so, you know, it was like, that's crazy. Why would you have that dream? You know, why wouldn't she come to me? But she was easier accessible, maybe.
Right. Or she can just perceive it. Yeah.
Right.
Well, just like they were going to my friend, all those like ghosts or whatever people, they were like,
right.
Because they knew she had the ability.
Right. Maybe they felt it easier to get through to her.
Right. Because they're like jumping all around us.
Watch out for my mom, or, you know, or something. It's too coincidental. It's too weird outside of that realm.
Well, my mother had a similar dream. Like one day when it was 1980s, my mother used to take naps, and she got up and she said, wow, I had this really crazy deep dream. Like she would have these complete stories often when she would remember her dreams. She said, my father is trying to cross the river and my mother's on the other side. So 3 hours later, we got a call from India that her father had passed away 3 hours earlier.
Wow.
And her mother had already passed away like in the late 60s.
Right.
So like it's kind of what
River Jordan.
Yeah.
Trying to get across.
Yeah.
It's just, that's too coincidental.
Exactly. It was the exact timing. And my mother.
Exactly. It's exact timing.
Yeah. So there's just a lot of stuff that, Like I knew like Ronald Reagan was going to pass away.
Did you?
Yeah. A few days before I said, and I didn't tell anybody. I just told my sister, I said, okay, I have this really weird thing.
Yeah, you tell your sister.
He's going to pass away because I was part of the spiritual group and I was like afraid, like I'd never had a premonition before. So I just tell my sister, I said, I think he's going to pass away today or tomorrow, sometime this week. So it was like a Tuesday or something. Sunday, because I used to live with them and help raise their kids. And she runs down to my apartment on Sunday. She, on the front, Ronald Reagan had passed away the day before.
Wow.
Yeah. But that was just a random thing.
Yeah.
I remember just driving and just having that thought come in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why am I thinking of him? Because it was 2000 and I can't remember what year it was, but 2004 maybe. And it was like, why the heck? I remember just questioning because we have so many thoughts running through our head. And I remember stopping on that thought. I'm like, why the heck am I thinking of this president?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, I know, because he's going to die today or tomorrow, sometimes this week. And then I thought I was full of shit.
Right.
Because I'm like,
you don't want to say it out loud because you might be wrong, but after it happens, like, wow, how did I know that?
And it's not like every day. So like,
sure.
You know, but it was one, you know, and I wonder how often it happens, but it comes in and out so fleetingly that people don't recall it, maybe really register these things. Because we're all psychic. We all have ability to know things. Animals are very psychic.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, before the tsunami, they said a lot of animals went up to higher ground and things, you know, like the big one in 2004, or
really?
One, you know, like the one in India and like Thailand, like animals will know before sometimes things happen. And then they've had also things where a species in different regions start a new behavior at the same time, but they're not even in touch.
I was just going to say that. I've seen those studies. On the other side of the world, the rats are doing what these are doing over here, or they're learning quicker.
There's something.
How is that? Right,
because it's just psychic. There's no time and space, really, the essence.
I was driving down the road. We were heading down to, I guess we were heading down to Ventura, take a little vacation, and just heading down Highway 1, and I just had this weird feeling. And I said, I think so-and-so just tried to kill themselves. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't know why, just out of the blue, out of the quiet, you know. And then I thought about it maybe a week later, and I called some friends and it said, how's so, I don't want to say names, how's so-and-so doing, you know? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, you know, It's like, well, I had this funny thing happen to me. Tell me what's going on over there. And they're like, that's the same day his wife tried to commit suicide. Mm-hmm. It was like, I hadn't thought about this person in a decade.
Right.
Or maybe a little bit less, but it was like, how is that? I mean, it was a coincidence, but there was something made me think about that right at the same time that was happening.
It's a coincidence, but you tapped into it.
How did that happen?
You just had to relax.
3,000 miles away.
Well, that's the thing. There's no time and space, right?
Exactly.
Like, in a way, like, so the psychic realm, it doesn't matter where you are, right? Like, I can do distance healing, like Reiki and craniosacral across the country. Like, I did it once to my friend years ago. I was in the Washington State. She was in Massachusetts. And then she totally felt it. And then she didn't tell me at the time, but she was holding her kids' hands and they both felt it.
Really?
And they all had visions. It was so cool.
Right.
But yeah, like I remember a similar story to that. Like there was just some kid I used to know. And I remember thinking, like, something's going to happen, like when he's 14. Like, I think it was already in the U.S. and I just felt like he's going to die or something. And I would not find this out till probably 20 years later, but he did try to commit suicide at that age and hang himself. And the mother found him and he was fine. He ended up living, but...
Oh, he did.
But I was just like, I remember having this really sick feeling for a few years, like this... Something's really bad. And he was actually in a car crash. Mm. I was actually wondering if he was underage and he took the car. And I actually wonder if it was not an accident.
Yeah. Right.
But I just remember this sick feeling of like, this person, this is going to happen.
Yeah. It's too detailed. to be a coincidence, but
and not like a normal thought.
Yeah, right. Outside of them.
And then it was like around that age, like things happened.
Yeah. Do you meditate?
I do every day.
Do you really?
Yeah. It's not very focused.
No, right.
But yeah, I have for years.
Have you?
Yeah. But a lot of the thoughts come in like when I'm driving or running, actually. Yeah, I'll just have things like the Ronald Reagan thing was while I was driving. And the other one I don't remember about the kid. But yeah, I think sometimes when you just have this quiet moment, things will pop in when you stop that chatter and you kind of open up your awareness of things around you. Things can pop in. And I think the more you do it, the more it'll happen. Like it's like a muscle.
Right, right. It's very interesting listening to people talk about how they meditate. There's so many different ways. You know, I was listening to a monk talk. I don't know if I talked about this with you before, but he was saying that you can meditate standing in the line at a grocery store.
Oh, totally.
You just need to maybe close your eyes for a minute and picture. I was a Curious George freak as a child, so I picture this little monkey with a lever. Inhale, pull back, exhale, forward.
Right.
And if I can get that monkey mind of mine to just focus in on that monkey, just pulling a lever, positive, negative, inhale, exhale. Otherwise, that monkey's chattering.
Oh, yeah.
Because I got to give him a job to do. Otherwise, he's between my reptile brain and the brain.
Right.
So he's the one that's messing everything up.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So give him a job to do.
Good. Give the monkey a
job. I was like, that's amazing. And I've tried that, and it's amazing. It really is.
It quiets your mind.
It quiets the mind. Because it gives us something to do. What a great concept.
You know what quiets my mind?
What's that?
When I try to go watch my thoughts, they stop.
Really?
But then I lose focus, and then they start again. I forget what I was doing. But if I'm really good at it, and I just go to watch the thoughts, because they say watch your thoughts and just be disconnected, but mine just stop. It's like you're onto it, and then like it's like, oh, sorry.
I had one guy say that to imagine that you're looking out a window and watch your thoughts go by, but pretend like they're birds and don't let them land. Just keep them going.
Right.
Don't let them land. Just fly by the window, but acknowledge the thoughts. I was like, that's an interesting concept too.
Yeah, it's more what I've heard, but then that kind of idea to watch them. But then for me, they just stop. Because
you're not going to stop it.
Well, in my case, they stop.
Well, I mean, you're not going to stop your mind from.
You can.
Can you? Well, I mean, you've been doing it longer than I am, but.
Well, I mean, I'm not very good at it.
Yeah, right.
But you can. Like, if you find. I mean, you did. You found your own trick. You found your monkey with the thing.
Right.
But you can also, like I learned transcendental meditation, and when I've done it well, like you're taught a word that's a nonsensical word that they give you, and then you repeat it, and then you don't worry about if the focus goes out. But when you're good at it, like when I got really good at it and did twice a day for 20 minutes. I had to make sure that I did it right after work, because if I did it too late, it affected my sleep.
Oh, I see, yeah.
But my sense of direction was better. I felt my memory was better. Yeah, and you just repeat this nonsensical word, and then that keeps your mind occupied with something, but it's not even a real word.
Right.
Except, unfortunately, the word they gave me is similar to somebody's name I used to know.
Oh, right.
I should make up a new one.
Make a new one, right? Sure.
But I think they had their choice how they do it. But
sure.
But really, it's a concept.
Sure.
So
you can change that.
Yeah, I could. And you're not supposed to share it with anybody. But I found that really effective. And you would just feel yourself, if you stayed focused, if you really, and then it becomes like an energy versus the word in a way, like if you keep repeating it in your head.
I see, yeah.
And then you can feel yourself sink almost. And then sometimes I'll kind of fall asleep or something, but.
Just giving your brain permission to let go. That's kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah. So there's different techniques. And sometimes like when I've run, I used to like count my breaths 1, 2, 3, like every breath was 1, 2, 3, 4, then start again, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can do that. I think anything that gets you to stop that chatter.
Yeah.
Like your monkey wrench thing. And,
sure. Right.
You know, counting your breaths. That's another way that people, they don't say to do it while you run, but why not? But yeah, you can also count your breaths and, quiet your mind if you can stay focused. That's the key, to stay focused on something.
Sure. Yeah. They talk about active meditation. It's just as, I don't know, just as good, but
there's all kinds, there's so many types.
Gardening, you know, you hear people, I just got to get home and do my gardening. That's definitely a form of meditation.
It is. It's where you like settle, and, you know, the ground is so like, you know, if you can really connect to the ground and just ground yourself and let all these extra energies, like that's why people love to garden or be in nature or hike, you know, or swim in the ocean and the lakes. You know, nature is very soothing and healing. Earth's
energy. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's so cool. Yeah. So what an interesting podcast we've had today.
Yeah, we
covered a lot of ground.
We did.
Is there anything we missed?
Well, we'll only realize when we come off.
Right,
probably,
exactly.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Thank you very much.
So we're going to do some story writing and screenplays. Hopefully we can put a story together. That'd be pretty interesting. Yeah,
I just have to get my mindset back to that. I think my priority is going to be kind of to like find my next job and work on my intuition thing. But, you know, it doesn't take a lot. Like some of these things like writing, if I were to sit down for 30 minutes a week, you know, I would be making progress. And sometimes
even a week.
Yeah, like even 30 minutes a week. Like I haven't really written for 3 years. I played with the idea. I actually have a whole outline for the story. There's just some holes in the story, but I was like, Menaka, just write it. Just start writing, because my brain works better. Like my word recall is better if I'm writing more, because it just, you know, works my brain a different way, and it's fun, and it's that whole thing to just sit down and do it, you know, and then it's fun, and I lose time when I write.
Yeah. Well, you got to keep it active. I remember after high school, after like summertime in high school, you come back, and I was really good at math. But boy, that first week, everything's all rusty and not turning right. And got to kind of get everything active again, get the gears turning again, and then it starts clicking.
Yeah.
It's
getting into the habit too. Like for anything you want to do that's out of your routine. Sometimes you have to just get back into the habit. That's why classes were good, because I was always a nerd about school. Like I had to keep up, and that just kept me going.
Yeah, right. I always did real well in school, but I just was an atrocious at doing homework and doing assignments and passing, the quizzes, and then I'd crush the test at the end. Like, you're cheating. It's like, I'm not cheating. I just don't.
I'm just smart.
I don't get, well, no. Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to be so organized. If I was more organized, I would have got better grades, obviously. But I got by. You know,
it was more efficient
in my mind.
Yeah.
So, but
I overstudied.
Yeah.
And I was made sure I was,
You just knew it.
Yeah.
Right.
I was just compelled to do it.
Yeah. I've said this before. When I went back to college in my late 40s, I was looking for a career. I wasn't looking to see what was on the test.
Oh,
yeah. You know what I mean? All the kids in the class, is this going to be on the test? It's like, just learn it. They're teaching it because they want you to know it.
Because you want to use it.
Yeah. Put it in your holster. You may need it someday.
Right.
Just learn it.
Yeah.
It's
like, isn't that crazy. Why you're really here? Like,
yeah. Are you trying to get a grade? Or are you trying to get...
Were they a lot younger than you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. High school, coming out of college. There's a couple of people.
Yeah. So there's still in that mentality, like, just pass the test.
Exactly.
It's not about, actually learning it.
That's the difference about going in as an adult, because I know what I want now.
Right.
I don't care what this teacher thinks of me. I couldn't give a flying wingding what this guy thinks of me.
Right.
Because he's intelligent and he knows I need to get as much out of him as I can. But what he thinks about me personally, or what he gives me,
it's irrelevant.
I don't care.
Right.
It doesn't, but that means a lot to somebody that's coming out of high school.
Right. They're always
So-
just still focused on the grade and all that.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
well, I tell you what, they were so perfectly organized and color coded, and all their folders were just, and mine's are a pile of crap inside of my hockey bag, I was
Right.
trying to find. And, but once you got them on the table, they were a little lost
Mm-hmm.
because the physical, what they were trying to do was escaped. There wasn't anything they had to keep track of.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you saw that a lot of that. And
Actually,
learned.
a really great massage. I mean, it's probably by exception. Like the first massage I ever had was a student, because when I was in doing PT school, one of my classmates had an older sister who was a massage therapist and was maybe teaching in one of the massage schools. And so we were able to get these free massages.
Nice.
And one of them, like the first massage I ever had, she was really good. She was really good. And then the second guy was terrible because he's like, I only want to work on one body part, like your arm. I'm like, what?
Oh, no, it's not the way it works.
Well, you better, if you start your practice, but then a couple of years ago, I was in some city doing a contract and just chose somebody to see. And she was kind of like that.
Really?
And I'm like, you might want to mention that in your website. Because I wanted I go for full body,
Yeah.
that's what I want.
Right.
And but it was just interesting.
I've been caught on that one before myself because sometimes I'm caught in the middle because somebody will come in and say, I haven't been able to move this arm or the shoulder's locked
Right.
up. It's like, well, do you want me to just check on it while I'm doing the full massage, or do you want me to work on just that body part? I get what they're saying because I do have, I could probably fix that, but it's going to take me a half an hour.
Right.
Of this hour massage, and I'm not going to be able to flip you over. I'm not going to be able to do this
Depends on
foot
their
massage.
priority.
I can't do the scalp
Right.
massage. Right. So I've had to come across that a few different times where I don't want to have you come and maybe just list it maybe on the website what the difference is. Yeah, I'm still fighting with that one.
Well,
Because I do find myself where I don't have enough time to finish the massage sometimes because there was something I really had to spend some time on.
But I think you do a good job because you kind of came across that with me.
Yeah.
And you said, well, you kind of just spelled it out.
Did I?
A little bit. Yeah. And you just said, I might need to spend more time here. And you just, I think the best thing is to communicate.
Right.
You don't need to put it in the website. You can just say, hey, I know you came for here. This is what I see. And what is your choice?
Right.
Right. And if they say, what do you think? Then you tell them what you think.
It's all down to communication, really.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Because, you'll see, they're also coming to you as a professional. Right.
Right.
And
right.
then, like even as a physical therapist, like we can say, we recommend this because they're like, oh, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to use the walker when I go home. And, I can say, okay, well, when you go home, you can obviously do what's right for you.
Right.
But this is why I think you should stick with the walker for a while. You have a high risk for a fall, but, you have, free will and free choice. So you make that choice, but this is my recommendation. And then you let them make that choice.
Yeah. Right.
I think you did it fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to work on that one a little bit.
Yeah.
Work on my communication skills. You don't want to talk too much, but.
Yeah. But well, with me, I think I understood. Like you said,
good.
I may not be able to spend as much time because
Sure.
blah, 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 we were working on a spot
Right,
and you were
right.
like, and you said that. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah. I have to break that down with everybody.
Right. And just.
Right. Because sometimes you won't know until you get to someplace. They won't even know. It's like, holy cow, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is not right here at all.
Yeah. And so often, like this one part, like my scapula, it tends to do that. It used to kind of wings out. But often it's happened that the side that's most evident to like the massage therapist, I am feeling the signs of the tightness on the other side, right?
Sure.
So you got to fix the part. You've got to go to the part that's where the problem is, and the body's so connected. So like, I remember this one teacher, chi running instructor. I became a chi running instructor. That's a whole other area.
Yeah, right.
And he was saying how when they loosened his shoulder, massage therapist, he got a better stride on the other side, his leg. Because everything's attached.
Well, there also is crisscross too. A lot of times, if you're having a problem in your right shoulder, you're going to have a problem in your left hip.
Yeah.
I have found that. Whether it's compensation doing that, it's getting you sideways like that. I'm not sure.
Could be multiple reasons.
Could be multiple reasons. Sure.
Yeah. And so it's sort of like, but I'm sore over there. But then, once they went in and they were like, you're like, oh my God, like I didn't know there were so many knots in there. Because once you start the person, you or somebody, it's like, whoa, it is really bad.
Sure. And referred pain.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's hurting here, and then I'll release something on their spine, and then, that just went away.
Right.
It's like, it's not really coming from there. It's pinching a nerve somewhere that is making your arm hurt, or,
Exactly. And that's where intuition comes in also.
Right,
I mean, you have your ability to feel and see, but sometimes you'll also know,
sure.
Like you probably know things more than you realize because you've been doing this how long now?
About 12 years.
Yeah. There's probably intuition, even consider knowing you have it and even open up the awareness of letting that ability come in and just add to, helping you be more in tune to yourself and the person.
Self-confidence.
It's part of it, but it's confident, but awareness. It's awareness and tuning in to yourself and others.
Right.
Like it's not even confidence. Well, maybe in that trusting
your couple of years where you're trying to build your self-confidence, you feel it, but now you've got so many years behind you.
Yeah. And you might just know, they're, oh wow, I know when I do just pure Reiki on somebody, I just know where to move my hands. I just my hands want to feel like they want to go here now.
Yeah.
And they might have said, I'm sore, in my shoulder, but then I'll work directly on the shoulder, but I'll just feel other places where I need to go.
Right. Just following that energy.
Follow the energy and follow your intuition of where you need to go next. So sometimes there might even be an order of release. So you might even be able to tune in, okay, this person has this shoulder, but you know what? I think I need to start on the left calf. Just open up to that possibility, and you might find a faster route, possibly.
Exactly. Right. It's fascinating. It's a never-ending story, for sure.
Yeah.
Working with the body.
Oh.
Energies and tied up muscles and circulation. It just goes all.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, you can't ever stop learning. It's just too much.
Right. Exactly.
It's interesting. I love it. Well, I sure appreciate you coming in today.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. It was fun to, chat and get to know you more.
Good, So probably the next thing you want to work on is the coaching thing. So how can people get a hold of you if they
this one's, they can try and find me online, and I can spell my name if people want to listen, if they've listened all the way through this podcast. But it's M as in Mary, E, N as in Nancy, A-K-A. And my last name is Charan, C-H-A-R-A-N as in Nancy. And so I'm at menakacharan.com. You might be able to find me even just with my first name and just put life coach, physical therapist. Since I have a slightly unusual name in that combination of what I do, people might be able to find me that way.
We'll put a link to that right at the bottom of this one too, also, so they can just link it and they'll be part of the description and everything else.
Oh, cool! Thank you.
They won't have to necessarily listen to it till the end of the podcast.
Yeah, because it'll be like, oh God, they covered everything. Unless they want to be super touch all those subjects we went on.
Sure, right. Skip around.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Okay, talk to you soon.
All right, thanks.